spiritual. We are human beings. We are spiritual beings. We are human beings. I'm going to say, take it whichever way you like. If you don't think that we're spiritual, we're human beings. Most people would say we are human beings. Okay. So, we are human beings in a physical body, not always a very good one, as you can see. Our thinking, our thought, creates the reality of the world. This thinking and thought creates reality only when there is an emotional feeling, vibrational essence or force behind that thought or thinking. And as human beings, we are all connected to other human beings. We are not connected to a table or a chair, but our thought can fantasy world create the table or the chair. Now, by this I mean that our thought manipulates reality. We are. This is not what we are now. This is what we were. This was what we were in the Garden of Eden, shall we say, if you want to take it that way. I want to say before I go on, ramble, that if I can get away from the disturbances, because even though I and others create in this reality, or should be able to create in this reality, this is not a natural reality. Human beings are natural beings. Whether the human computer, the human body computer is the most advanced technological organic thing there is, ever. It was designed that way, but it now only functions at 1%, maybe less. That's how bad it is. That's how much the human body computer that was more advanced than any supercomputer that technology can create is now down to a very low level. So what I'm saying is that even if you don't believe in spiritual, you say we're human beings, you say we use technology, we like technology, technology helps us, technology advances us, you say. Out there, some of you say that. Some of you believe that. And I'm certainly using it now. So I'm contradicting myself, because in reality, I should not need a mobile phone, should I? If my thought creates reality, I should be able to transmit to them without this device. But you see, we do not live in a natural world anymore that is conducive for that. We are now human beings in a technological environment. Thought frequency is mingling with technology, which is also a frequency. Thoughts are a frequency or a vibration that I and humans all send out to one another. We're doing it all the time, but we are in a matrix, and the frequency of the matrix is controlled by technology, and the technology is a different frequency to a human being. So that is interacting with our frequencies that we're sending out. Now, how this actually works, I do not know, naturally, and it is a fantasy scenario, because I have to say that, because if you can't back up what you say with facts and hard concrete evidence, and science does not back it up, and even our belief systems on this earth in any way does not back it up. Some might, but most wouldn't. Then, you know, what I'm saying has to be then relegated. And I will say this, I watch movies. Movies are technology. But I believe movies are fairy tales. Movies are fairy tales that I believe in. Fairy tales. Fantasy. I believe the fairy tales. I believe the fantasy. That is my world. So if you are not of that mindset, if you don't have the imagination, because I believe the imagination is the all. The imagination is not fantasy. The imagination is what we are, because we create what we feel, what we put the emotion into. If you have technology, as I've said before, technology is the opposite to that. So if you use technology, then you are letting the technology do that for you. So if you are of the mind that you do not think that your emotions have any benefit to you, and that your feelings do not benefit or have any influence on your reality, then you will go to the technology for your to create your reality. Well, I shall go into a virtual reality world of the technology, and that will be my reality, because I can't do it myself. And that actually is the world, that is the fantasy world I live in the sense that I believe that the movies are fantasy, but I believe in fantasy. And therefore, the Matrix movie that I saw a while back is reality. I believe we live in the Matrix movie. I believe we are, our reality is the Matrix movie. That is how our reality really is. That is how I see my reality. Okay, now, I haven't explained that very well, I know, and I'm sorry. I always do this at the start, and because it is the essence of the reason I am making the video. I could make a video and talk about real things, what you would consider to be real. In other words, I could talk about concrete things. I could talk about technical things. I could talk about what is going on in the reality that we see. Because obviously, if you're in the Matrix movie, the average person doesn't know they're in the Matrix movie. They don't know they're in the Matrix. They think they are in a natural world. They don't think they're in a computer-generated simulation of what was once a true world, of what was once a real earth, of what was once a natural earth. In my fantasy reality, that natural earth that existed a long time ago is long gone. But in my fantasy world, I belonged in that world, because in that world, I and other human beings, at full potential, as they were meant to evolve and develop, could create any reality they wanted. And they were part of that natural, organic world. Because human beings, even though our body is the most advanced technical computer there is, or was meant to be, it is also organic. It is not a machine, and it is not programmed, or it shouldn't be programmed. We are programmed now, because if you incorporate technology into your reality, then you become programmed, because you're no longer operating just as a single entity. You're no longer an individual. You are operating with the technology, and that technology is operating with other people everywhere, other humans, etc., everywhere. The technology itself is not human. It is created by humans or whatever, but it is a creation of human input. It is, I put my input into the artificial technological computer, and then I bow down to it, and then I see it as better, knowing more than me. That is because, human beings put the input in. But it is not creative in any way. It is merely passing down information that has already been put into it by me. That makes me look stupid, doesn't it, in a funny kind of way, which is probably why I'm not the biggest fan, as you can imagine, of technology, because I do not think that we originally were meant to evolve into technology. Now, because we have went down so much, technology seems like a very good thing. But that is only because our biological human computer, our body and our mind, is at 1% or lower. If we were at higher percent, we would not want or need a computer. We just wouldn't want one, because why would you use a computer when your computer is you've already have everything? But do not get me wrong. This is a dangerous conversation, and not one that I enjoy having, because that does not mean then, I'm saying that the computer, the mechanical computer, can never be anything. It can never go anywhere. It is just downloading useless information. It is just downloading the matrix, because the matrix controls everything. We are in a computer-generated reality. I believe in the movies. The movies are fantasy. I believe in fantasy. I believe in fairy tales. They are a fact to me, okay? They're not a fact to everyone. But if they are a fact, then everything I say is okay, because then it fits. But if you don't believe that, if you believe that you live in a natural world, and that you you control that world, then you are living in a different reality, because it will be how we all see our reality either way. I mean, what is the truth is another thing. What is the truth is another thing. Because I viewed my own reality different only a few years ago. And I thought that was the truth. I thought that was the reality. So, now I would see it differently. The matrix has exposed itself to me. I personally think that it is meant to, at this particular time, it was meant to be exposed to all. But because of the reality that the matrix, in other words, the world around us, is a technological construct, an artificial technological construct that limits our natural potential to see the matrix, because our frequency is low, because the matrix is low frequency, as I've said before. So therefore, at this time, even those that were not at high frequency, because I'm not at high frequency, I'm at low frequency. But some people are at even lower than me, evidently. But to be honest, the matrix exposed itself to me, so it wasn't about frequency. But any person that I think raises their frequency, because we create in this reality with our thinking, and we're all connected. And everything, as I said, is frequency and vibration and energy. So because that is what we do, and because everything is frequency and vibration, even though it appears to be solid, that's because we make it solid. We make it solid with our thinking. That's what humans do. But we're not in a natural environment where we do that freely and interact with one another. We're in a constructed matrix. Now, even if you don't believe anything I'm saying, even if you don't come into my fantasy world, realistically speaking, just at a factual, what I would call the way I used to see things, the real world, shall we say, what most people see as the real world. You're a human being, okay? So you're a little human being, you're in a little real world, a little planet that revolves around a big sun, etc., etc. That's what you think the world is. That's what you're told, programmed. We're all programmed. We're programs because of technology. Because if you listen to anything technology, if you turn your TV on, that is a program, and you are being programmed with that program. That's what technology does. There's no question about that. I'm not being, insane by saying that. You know that. But even if you say you're just a little human being, you're on a planet, you know now that in the last 10, 20 years, in particular, this planet, this so-called planet, is now technologically controlled anyway. It is a technological construct. The internet is a technological construct around the entire planet. It covers every inch of this world. That is a fact. That has nothing to do with my fantasy matrix and believing in fairy tales. But at any rate, I just hope that I put that clearly. One of these days I'm going to make a video where I put everything clearly like other people do. That's if the matrix doesn't, confuse me even more before then, because the matrix does that. It operates around us all the time and confuses us to where we are not at a level to where we can see the matrix. But like I say, we were meant to all be seeing it, saying that I'm one of the late ones to see it. But like I say, I did not raise my vibration. I did not just come into it. Maybe I would have anyway. It was shown to me. So it wasn't like I did anything special. But I don't know. I would guess that there was meant to be a clearing of the technology temporarily or something. I don't know. I don't know how the reality works. I don't know because our reality, even though we are humans in it and we're kind of organic, but it's also still a matrix, which is probably made up. See, I don't understand these things, but even the matrix in the movie, even it's still made up of numbers and things. It's just that humans in themselves have the ability to manipulate that, to change it. Like that was like in the movie where they needed the one to change it. one who was of higher vibration, one who could rise to a high human level and therefore be able to change the whole matrix. I do not think that is really how it is meant to be. In other words, I think that it is always meant to have been that human beings are all connected. But of course, even in the Matrix, maybe the Neo character, and I went off onto the movie, I'm sorry, at high frequency, he had much more ability to vibrate and change the whole actual matrix, the earth, the world. That's putting it very simply, and I'm sure I'm wrong about that if you actually probably watch the movie, because I haven't analysed the movie enough to be sure. But that's what I don't think that can happen in the real world. I think that because we're all connected and because only humans can be connected to other humans, and that if they raise their vibration, that joint effect can have what they call that, it's a bit like, it's the same as that effect that they have that they call where the sheep follow one another. And I was told the other day that there are some birds that will, if a bird jumps over a cliff to his death, all the other birds will follow and jump. That's like an influence effect or something. Maybe it's vibration cliff by this effect, by this follow the leader effect, by this follow the influence effect, follow the information effect, whatever effect it is that is changing you or making you do some control of it, and you're unaware that you have this effect, and humans are interacting with one another and vibrating off one another. And if they're fighting, you can imagine that if two people are fighting, they're just creating negativity. Not only from themselves, they're destroying one another by that vibration and frequency, but they're also setting the example, whether physically setting the example for other people or others, but also just by that vibration. If we're all connected, then that negative vibration goes to other humans. I mean, I can only speak personally, but I have noticed, and this is random rubbish you'd say, but I rarely have a positive day, and I get a lot of negative, argumentative, abuse almost. In my reality, I see things differently, whereas other people see it another way. So naturally, there's going to be conflict. But also, some people are just angry. They're upset because they are confused, because we don't know what we are. This is right. So we get angry. We feel small when we should really know that we should be consciously interacting with our reality, consciously changing it, consciously just by our thinking, not by our actions. See, in this matrix, we are told that we can only alter things by our physical actions. Our thinking is not brought into it. And of course, because technology, and it is a technologically constructed thing, we are almost forced to resort to that now. I can't just say, oh, look, I want peace, love, and wonder, and just send that thought out. Also, if I'm being made feel angry by the matrix, I'm actually not going to have the feeling and the thought of love and peace behind even that thought, even though consciously I want that. I'm going to be angry if I've went outside and seen the matrix at full force with people arguing. And I've noticed that after a bad vibrational day myself, the next day I will see people arguing in the street. People that wouldn't have argued in the past, people that were living together for years and years in harmony. Where you see old people, big families, old people living with real young ones, and all intermix, none of this separation like we tend to have, what we've always had here where I live anyway, but where they actually got on, where all the generations lived together in harmony. But now you see them arguing to the point to where some of them sell their house and split up and go their separate ways. This has actually happened, or come close to it on occasions. And then sometimes it will change in the blink of an eye, and I'll say, how could they have changed their mind so quick? They were going to sell, a bit like saying we're going to get divorced, but no, now we're going to remarry. That's because the vibration has changed temporarily. Because vibration, unfortunately, if we're not stable, as I'm not, and probably most of everyone else isn't, that vibration is going to fluctuate, which is exactly how the matrix operates, that thing. Unstable, erratic, insane, because it's an insane kind of mindset. It's an extreme. It's one extreme to the other. There's no in the center, no balance. There's no normal anymore. And the matrix doesn't like normal. This is not a normal matrix. This is not our original world. This is not a natural, harmonious world where humans are in harmony with everything in it. Everything is artificial. Everything is technological. You could point many things to me and say, oh yes, we know that a lot of the artificial things are bad for us and bad for the world. But we'll only point on some things. We'll say, oh, that thing's bad, but it's okay to have technology all over the planet. It's okay to have computers, but it's not okay to have something else. Something else is bad. We focus only on one thing, whereas in reality, in my reality, it's everything. Because if the original human in the Garden of Eden or whatever, in my fantasy world, already had it all, already had they were the most advanced technological, natural, organic computer that ever was and ever could be. But that's stretching it, because to look at us now, people would laugh at me saying that. And even I laugh at myself saying it, because I look at myself and say, what am I reduced to? What has happened to my body? It functioned better a few years ago. The more technology that comes in, the worse the body functions. I relate these things, but other people don't. They say that is just you aging, that is caused by this and that. And yes, it is true that at a factual level that appears to be the case. I personally just don't believe it. I live in the fantasy world where the human body is the greatest technological invention or creation, shall we say. It wasn't it was a creation rather than an invention. I think inventions are a lot more technological, but hey, that's all just being pedantic. Is that the word? It doesn't matter. That really doesn't matter. I try to find the right words, because if you use the wrong word, you get a different meaning, unfortunately. But I can't always find the words, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm going to ramble. I was going to do some movies, which I would prefer to do, but I never get round to them, because all this basics of the world plays on me, because it's like I want the reality back. I want the Garden of Eden back. I want the impossible. I'm not even religious. I'm not saying the Garden of Eden was really the Garden of Eden, but I'm saying that in my fantasy reality, when human beings were plonked here on what I would have considered to be a lot more of an organic earth originally, not technological, not bathed in internet and technology. Well, we know this is true anyway, so I'm not being fantastic about that. That's a fact. We all know that. The original earth was all natural. We were all natural. We didn't incorporate artificial things into our body. We didn't eat, we ate probably only from natural trees and things that were around. It was paradise. That's why they called it paradise, because everything was there that was to benefit us and to aid our evolution to where we would go to the highest level possible. So we shouldn't really need a walking stick. We shouldn't need a computer. We shouldn't need a wheelchair. We shouldn't need artificial aids. We're not cripples, but we are cripples now. We weren't meant to be cripples. We were never crippled. We were perfect. We were meant to evolve perfectly in a natural way to the highest level. Instead, we deteriorated for various reasons. Interception, interaction, wrong breeding, whatever you like. All these things. Look into your own histories, believe what you will. I haven't got time to say my own interpretation, but even my own interpretation may have some faults in it, because I do not know everything. Of course not. How could you? Some people know more than me, much more. And that's only if you are sure, 100% sure, that everything you say is correct. You know, I've said a few things that are slightly incorrect. The basics that I say I still believe to be true, but I don't get all the details because I'm ignorant on the history. Look, I can sit here now. I can sit here now. I cannot go back in a time machine to 10,000 years ago. I cannot go back in a time machine to 20,000 years ago or 30, etc., etc. I can't do that. I can't go back as far as I would like to see what the world was like then. All I think in my own fantasy world is that in that world, in my world, I could do things that I can't do now. I dread the winter coming. I'm getting a bit old. I don't like the cold weather. I have to put on half a dozen coats. Some animals can regulate their body temperature. Why is the most advanced species on the planet not able to regulate their body temperature? Why? We should be able to do all the things that the animals do and more, because they are supposed to be less than us. And they basically are, because they are not as advanced. That is a fact. We know that in a way. But some animals can do much more advanced things than what we can. Only maybe one or two things, but they can do it. Why can't I regulate my body temperature? Is this world, in my fantasy world, at the beginning, I could regulate my body temperature, but as it was a paradise, I probably wouldn't have had to anyway, because it probably would have been warmer than what it is now, because it's too cold for me now. I can't cope with it. So it would have been warm all the time. And I would not freeze to my, bones and have to wear, I would not have to wear clothes. And in the Garden of Eden, in the paradise, you remember, they did not wear clothes. They were naked. I wouldn't want to be naked because my body's revolting, but there again, that is because it is deteriorated, whereas it shouldn't deteriorate. The body should regenerate too. So there's no reason that the body should fall to rack and ruin, as mine has and most people's do every year you get older. This is largely due to the fact that we're not in that world anymore. It is not warm all the time. In fact, sometimes it rains, sometimes it snows, whereas it should have been a temperate, warmer climate all the time. And I should not have to wear clothes, or at least rug up to where I've got half a dozen jumpers and coats and like I do in the winter, and still cold. And my body, if animals can regulate, some animals can regulate their body temperature, I should be able to do that too. So as you can see, in my fantasy world, this world has definitely changed a lot. But like I say, I can't go back temperate then in every way. And that I shouldn't have to do all these things. No. But, and because I haven't got that time machine, but in my fantasy world, that is what I would imagine. And either way, it would be what I believe in my heart should be true. But that world has gone now. And we know it's gone in some ways, because even those of you that believe we're just human beings and we're in the world, we say the world is at a physical level, even at a planet level, has changed a lot and deteriorated. We don't know why. We focus and we think we know why, but we don't really know why. But if we knew that we were in a matrix, then we would see it probably differently. And also we would realize that it's just not the same world. It's an artificial world. And because it's an artificial world, it is a technical world. Technical, artificial are the same thing. They're all merged. We are merged in it now. So we've changed, our planet and Earth has changed. And if we like everything being artificial and technological and do not want everything 100% natural, then that is, the world will change and we will change and become more artificial, more technological, and our Earth will no longer be organic and living. The Earth will not die. The matrix cannot be destroyed. It can be damaged, but it can only be damaged by technology because it is technical now. That doesn't make any sense, does it to you? I know I'm not putting it clear. But you see, even in this technological Earth, you know it's technological, you know it's artificial, because I'm talking to you now on a technical artificial device. I'm not sending my thoughts through a psychic vibrational channel or whatever, or frequency. I don't know. I don't want to sound too whatever. I'm not doing that. And I can't do that because my waves are not clear, because I'm interacting with technology and artificial stuff. But some of us are still human beings. In other words, we haven't incorporated technology to the extent that we no longer are human beings. And by human beings, I should clarify this a bit if I can. By human beings, I mean emotional, feeling. That's the main difference between human beings and a technological being, shall we say, an artificial construct, an artificial world, an artificial being even, robot, that type of thing, the fantasy, robots. Just let me check to see that I'm doing this correct. I think that I did not have that loud enough. Okay, now, it's like this, right? When I say a human being, right? Be like this. You have a sad movie, right? There's a really sad movie, what appears to be a sad movie. Now, 3 people go to the movie. One person sees the movie and is crying really bad at the end, authentically crying, genuinely moved by the movie, sad for the characters, whatever. The second person does not cry. They see it's a sad movie, but they're not overwhelmed with emotion or feeling to where they're bawling their eyes. They haven't been pulled totally into that emotional movie. They haven't been totally dragged by that. They're not overwhelmed by it. They can see that it's sad, but it's not going to make them cry. Not to work, because the person that cries probably tries to stop themselves from crying, but they can't, because they're very human, they're very emotional. And, don't get me wrong with what I'm saying here, because you can be too much that way. A balance is important, but forget that anyway. And then there's the third person. So there's the one that cries, there's the one that doesn't, and then there's the one that pretends to cry, who physically cries, but doesn't really feel it. They're actors, like the actors in the movies. And they're actors in real life too, because we all act sometimes. Sometimes we do it for good, sometimes for bad, but we're all actors to some extent. In fact, this whole world, as I've said before, the world, as the saying goes, and many have said, the world is a stage and we're all just actors. But some of us are more actors than others. The person who cries genuinely at the movie doesn't cry. Is not necessarily an actor. They're not an actor, but they are not as emotionally there are all levels of this too, by the way. See, I'm only using 3 examples. There's a spectrum. There's a spectrum. Like I might be somewhere between the person that cries a real lot and the one that doesn't. It's a spectrum, so don't think that we've just got clear types, although there could be clear types. If you went technically into it, there would be genetic, physical reasons for all these things, psychological reasons, environmental reasons why some people feel more than others, why some people react more to some things than others, etc. I'm not putting this very well, but the third one, the second one is someone that just is, it has, I suppose the second one you could say is leaning more towards the psychopathic, the narcissistic, where they're not as, they have feelings, but not as much feelings for the environment. Because when you go to the movie and you cry, you're crying for those characters that are in the movie, the situation in the movie, whereas the narcissistic, psychopathic type of personality doesn't do that. They will only get upset if it actually hits them. If they were in the movie, they'd be upset and emotional, but while they're watching it happen to someone else or in the movie, that doesn't affect them as much, because they only mainly have their own feelings for themselves, because that connection to other human beings is not strong. They have been cut off, their frequency has been cut off. How we're talking about the frequency between humans, well, theirs is very much cut off completely from humans, from other humans. And this is not because of the technology necessarily. It could be a deliberate technological intervention, or just the fact that the technology is there and they're using it, or it's around them and it disrupts their energy frequency flow, shall we say, if I'm putting it correct. But more than likely, it is just, it's the matrix that has made them that way by environmental factors, as it makes all of us. Whatever we are is only what we have been programmed by the matrix to be, because the matrix programs our reality, and we react to that programming in that reality. We only react to what's around us. It's not a natural environment that we are creating like we would have originally, where we were only creating for ourselves and with our own thinking. Whereas in this reality, everything is created and set up for us. And so that's why we have a lot more negativity, because we don't have control over that. We can only react to what is around us because it's a matrix. Whereas in the original world, we would have been fully creating in it. And also it would have been a natural world, only with natural animals, plants, trees, and natural food that we would have created, natural trees, and everything would have been for us and therefore conducive to us flourishing, as I've said before, because you would be feeding your body with only that which was not artificial or technical. All the water would have been rain, and all the streams would have been pure. All the oceans wouldn't be so salty and so, full of chemicals and different things. And we ourselves would have been cleaner, so we wouldn't have been as toxic to the environment. It would have all been in harmony, and we would have had and we would have done that naturally, because we wouldn't have had any need for any technology, because we would have been able to create it ourselves. Whereas now we need the technology because we don't think we can do that, because once you immerse yourself too much in the technology, your abilities become redundant. But to be honest, I'm rambling too much and I'm getting a bit upset, because I don't think this all happened naturally. Because if you make like if, for instance, you make a mistake and you breed with something that is different to you, then you will create what they call a hybrid, and that hybrid will not be the same as you. It will not be pure. It will be less. It will still exist, but it won't be the same as if you had bred only with your own species and pure. So therefore you keep creating an advanced being, shall we say. But if you breed with something that is different to you, you will create a hybrid, and therefore you will be less. It will be different, but it will be also less, I would think. In my fantasy world, if you already have something that has the potential and has everything, there's no need to breed with something else that is different, or that is different or less, because even if you thought it was something better, you might think this is interesting, but it will not be possible for you to keep that pure advanced species going. You will end up with a mixture of the technological being and the advanced human being. So therefore it will be half-half, and therefore it won't be as advanced, and it will lose its potential to keep being advanced. And the more this happens, the more you downgrade something. It's a bit like if you make a copy, everything, that's not a very good example, no. That's more like something else. That would be like, I'm sorry, I've not made my point well here at all. But what I would like to say before I go on to more of this, even though I know I'm confusing myself and you again, and I'm sorry for that. I hope you can hear me at least. This is an example. It only happened the day before yesterday, right? And I sat on a public seat, right? I just sat down on a public seat outside. And someone had placed a sticker on the seat where I was sat right on it, almost, you could say, a little sticker. And on that sticker, which was professionally made and stuck there, it said, "You have been lied to." This is what actually happened. Now, I could show that to someone else and they'd say, very interesting. Whereas now, because I think that everything is fantasy and I believe in fantasies, I say, hey, everything that is around me has some meaning. Everything has a relevance. Everything is part of the matrix. There's good and bad in the matrix. Because it's technological, it's negative to the human being. I've said this before, because they're opposites. You know, that's common sense, isn't it? A natural bird does not want to play with a toy bird, a plastic bird, a metal bird, even a robot bird that moves. Not normally, anyway. Normally he can tell the difference and he sort of says, oh, just walk past it and ignore it. But, maybe if there were no other birds left, he was really bored, really desperate, might try to mate with the artificial bird. I don't know. I'm being ridiculous. But either way, that is what, that is like in the movie They Live, where the fella puts the sunglasses on and all of a sudden all the signs have a meaning, a different meaning to what they appear to be, if you've seen that movie. When he looks at an advertisement for something, instead of seeing the advertisement when he puts on the magic glasses that show the truth or what the real meaning of things are, then he sees the writing is saying, I forget what they say, stay asleep. Yes, don't wake up, don't see the real world. Obey everything. Follow everything. Consume everything. Buy everything. Or there was a whole lot. And that's how he saw the signs, because essentially if you're advertising something, that's what you are saying, aren't you? If a billboard is enticing me to buy something, that's what it's saying. It's saying consume. Don't think about it, just buy it, consume. But anyway, I've gone off that. But the thing is that just says what it does say, but still a lot of people would ignore it. Whereas, because I don't have magic sunglasses, I'm no different to anyone else. The only difference is that I now look at things and deliberately look at what is written even in front of me and say, does that mean something to me? Most of the time when I do that now, I actually do see that what only a little while ago I would have just seen as an advertisement for a drink, some event that's happening, some people, and I will see words in that ring true and show me the matrix. And that's you'd have to actually do it yourself to see it, and it has to happen. But that's only once you like that sticker, you've been lied to. Well, so if you say, oh, well, I've been lied to, there's a lot of things that I think are true that aren't, and I believe in the fairy tales. And I believe we're in a reverse world. So that means that most of what I see, I reverse it round and say, what I'm seeing is really the opposite to that. And then I will think about that and say, is that true? Is this really a reverse of what I'm seeing? And then I'll try to get, what you'd say, I'll try to be like a Sherlock Holmes a little bit if I've got the time, and I will analyse it and I'll investigate it a little bit and say, is that really the reverse of what I'm told or what I'm seeing? What I'm actually seeing is what is really happening in the world the reverse? And most of the time I do come to that conclusion that I'm living in a fantasy reverse world. But that thing on the seat is like, you've been lied to. So I'm supposed to think about that. But most people would just see it there and think, ridiculous sticker, who cares, one way or the other. Whereas I will actually look at that little sticker and then dwell on it and say, what have I been lied to about? Am I being lied to while I'm sitting here on the seat with the sticker? Is what is going on around me a lie? Well, yes, because I'm in the Matrix, you see, because I believe I'm in the Matrix movie. And I believe in the movies. I believe that the fiction, everything that is fiction is true. Every fairy tale is true. Every movie is true. So therefore, yes, that means that what I think I see around me is not quite what I see. I have to then look at what I'm seeing around me and interpret it a different way. And that's what I do. But that's also what I had to do, because I found that if I didn't, because once I saw the matrix and it was negative for me, I had to try to uncover what was making the matrix tick. You know, if someone is trying to destroy you, you know, like if you're in a personal relationship and someone's negative and trying to destroy you, you want to find out what makes them tick, why they're doing that, or what is their motive, and also, if possible, matrix, so that it wouldn't destroy me. So it wasn't like I was a Sherlock Holmes and wanted to find out about the Matrix. No, I would have been happy to just live in my fake, what I thought was a fake real world, where it's really a fake natural world, because it's not natural at all. And it's not natural in the sense that that it's changed. It's changed so much that it's not the same world at all. But either way, I'm rambling on. Like I say, none of us can go back in a time machine, you know. But if we could go back thousands and thousands of years, we would find that the world was much more comfortable, that it would have been temperate, that I would have had my fantasy world. Yes, I wouldn't be fearing the winter and, you know, there might be that. It would have just been, you know, I would have been able to go for a swim all the time in the cooler water, because the climate, the weather, the whole thing would have been nice and comfortable. You know, it wouldn't have been to where it gets, you know, to where I'm uncomfortable because I can't regulate my body. But anyway, I've gone back onto that, haven't I? I'm sorry about that. But you can't do these things. So you can only, some people maybe could, you know, like I say, if you're a Sherlock Holmes, you might be able to, you can't get in a time machine at this point. You know, whether we're meant to be able to see all the time things is another thing too. At an advanced level, who knows? But no, so you can only investigate on the information you have. You can only go back so far with records and with the technological so-called information that we have, which most of it is very sparse and limited and disjointed. We have our missing links, etc., which I know nothing about these things, but they're all very confusing and suspicious for me. And because I'm paranoid and know that and believe that I live in a fantasy fairy tale matrix world, of course, I question everything and I'm suspicious of everything and I'm paranoid about everything. Of course, that is to be expected. But like I say, I've rambled off again. There was the sticker anyway. And I see that all the time. Like I can actually get, you could say you get messages from things, but they're not messages that are coming supernaturally. They're just your awareness. You know, people talk about this. They say that some people have said that humans are just 100% awareness. Certainly they're not, and I'm not, but we're meant to be. That's just one element. That's apart from all the myriad of other things that we should be and that we would have had abilities to become and that would have been in our DNA and in our biological computer, which is not functioning, which has been largely closed down. We know that for a scientific fact. Even our real scientists, our so-called real scientists tell us this. You know, they don't seem to know a great deal, but they will tell you these basic things, but we dismiss them and say, we don't say why. We don't say, how can we get our natural body back on track? Instead, they say, no, you're better off using a crutch. You're better off using a computer. You're better off incorporating technology. Don't try to get your advanced natural supercomputer human body going again. No, replace it with an inferior, technical, artificial human body. You know, that's easier because they don't know how to do it. They don't try to do it even. And they don't believe in it because they don't think that. They don't realize that that's what's happened, and they don't They don't actually give themselves even enough credit that way. We don't. And it's hard, we don't do that. We don't say, hey, we were put here, we were special. Well, even if we were just put here, we were the only ones put here originally. We may not be the only ones here now, and we may have many more different hybrids and things that we've, well, look at it this way. Of course we have hybrids, and of course we have mixing of things, because we even breed animals. All our animals are not pure. We have thousands of breeds of dogs. Where's the one original dog? Where's the original cat? Where's the original birds? I mean, and most of what I'm talking about is not natural. It's not natural selection or natural breeding. No, it is deliberate technical manipulation of the genetics of animals and species. And then if something is a problem, we wipe it out completely, intentionally or unintentionally. And when I say we, I don't mean every human. I mean, if you bring technology into the world and that is disruptive for what is natural, then you automatically are going to destroy what is natural. You may not intend to even. You may or you may not intend to, depend on who or what is doing it, who or what controls the matrix. The God entity, what his mindset is, what he wants to flourish or not flourish, what he wants to create and what he wants to destroy. And I say he because that's just a word. It may not. A technological being probably is neither male nor female, may not be. Because natural beings are male and female, or at least that's how we have been up to a point. Originally a certain way, I assume they have a beneficial purpose, but I could be wrong. In my fantasy world, I'm not wrong, but other people may see things differently. And of course, if you are a human that does not like that and does not think that is the most advanced and best way to do things, of course, then you're not going to agree. And also you might just say, hey, that might have been, yeah, the Garden of Eden sounds good. The paradise sounds very good. We're very sorry that you've lost your paradise. We're sorry that the paradise is gone, but we can't get it back now. So we're going to make a new paradise, a technological paradise, or a technological hell, depending on your viewpoint, but, or at least, but whichever way you look at it, you have to say, is it better or is it worse? Is it beneficial? and is it possible to reverse things? Is it possible to reverse the reverse world? Would you want to reverse the reverse world if it was possible? Certainly it would be possible to reverse, I would say, and I'm a very negative person, but I would say that it's possible to reverse some things. I mean, it is quite possible. In fact, is it impossible for someone to put their mobile phone down? Is that impossible? Some people might say to me, yes. Well, should something like that be impossible? If that could turn the world around, if that could change the world, if that could benefit you. Should that not be possible? Should that not be desirable? Should not that seem logical? But, that's, like I say, it all depends on which fairyland you're coming from, what fairyland you want too. Maybe I'm fearful of the fairyland or the reality that we're living in now. But anyway, I'm gonna go more fantasy, and I wish I could keep on track. And I wish I could be more coherent because I place too many separate things together. It's like giving you bits and pieces of my reality, or what I see as reality, my fantasy reality, and it doesn't actually, you will have to fill in a lot yourself. Investigate yourself back thousands and thousands of years and see if you can find out what this planet's, see if you can just find the missing links and things. Maybe, don't think that any one human being can't discover something for themselves. You don't have to be a top scientist. If it works for you and if you believe it, you will have to be able to discern, like that sticker, "You've been lied to," it said to me. Well, I have to then say, is this a lie that I'm getting, or is it the truth? Is it something in between? Is it something else? You have to, that's where the instinct that I believe that humans should have is now being pushed down quite a bit. Because if you just knew that your instincts were right on things, which I think instinct does, that's a natural human thing that a computer doesn't have and that technology doesn't have. So if you go always to the technology and the computer for everything completely, but you throw away your own instinct, then you're totally reliant that that computer does not lie to you. And you think that your instinct lies to you or gets it wrong. And you don't base your actions totally on your instinct. I'm not saying you should do one or the other 100%, but I'm saying perhaps we should utilize a little bit of both now, in the sense that to put all your eggs in the one basket, as they say, at this point in time is probably not a good idea. In the past, if everything was equal, and like back in my fantasy paradise, where everything was comfortable, the world itself was different to what it is now, where it's changing one minute to the other, where even the earth itself is changing one minute to the other, whether that be naturally or biotechnology. It has to be biotechnology, in my view, because it is a technological world. To me, that seems just logical. Whereas if it was still a natural world, I'd say, hey, then it must be something kind of manual that we do, or something, if something changes, or you'd find a natural reason for it, or a human reason, or whatever. But because we are in a total technological, what I believe the matrix construct, then I throw all that out the window then. And also I do look into it, but I'm not going to give you any facts or any computer technological facts even. That's not why I make the videos. That's not my thing. That's not what I'm here for. That's for you to do if you're interested. I'll just put the fantasy scenarios and you will be Sherlock Holmes and do your own investigating. That way you won't say, hey, that you're mind controlled and that you're just being programmed even by me, because I could be a program. I could be one of the actors. Like I said before, there's the ones that cry at the movies, there's the ones that don't, and then there's the actors. The actors are not human beings that have just been influenced negatively by the Matrix. They are actors, so they're fake. They like the Matrix. They are the Matrix, in a way. Once you act too much and become too, but hey, that is still, I'm going into psychological stuff here, and this is dangerous ground and not a good thing, because other human beings, but you're still feeling for yourself. It's just that your emotions, you protected yourself. So you've when you become narcissistic, you're just protecting yourself from your feelings, because and from other people, because you don't trust other people, because other people have proved to be in creating a false persona and lying to them and pretending to feel for them when you don't, because you think they're lying, and so therefore you lie. It's a catch-22 with people that way, but you're still human, and you could perhaps, if you became freer and realised that you're in a matrix, shall we say, and realised that that is what has just been created, and that it's not even humans' fault 100%. Sure, we are the vehicles of the matrix sometimes to create havoc and destruction, unbeknownst to us, because we're all victims of the matrix. We're victims of the matrix because if you have negative stuff around you, as I say, naturally you are going to think negative and you are going to behave negative. Unless you are very high vibration, and yes, as I've said, I've used sayings from various other denominations and other things, be in this world but not of this world. Very few people can do that. You can't kiss someone on the cheek after they've punched you in the face. That is, yes, the one who is being in this world but not of it, but none of us can do that. We're not at that level. And we are not allowed to be at that level because the matrix is very negative. The world is negative. So, it's like I say, catch-22, but, I will say sayings of different things. I have no affiliations with any beliefs, any denominations, any gods of the world even, in the sense that I acknowledge that there is a force, a God entity that controls the world and operates the matrix, and has others that operate for them, couldn't get that quick enough. I'm too slow, you see, but the thing is that we're meant to be slow. We're not meant to. The computer makes us speed up, so you can't think. It's better to think slower and be concise, because, at my limited level, if I speed up, I'm only going to get it more muddled up. And that's the problem when I make the videos, But I was just going to say that, hold on, I'll just see what's here. Yeah, there. Yeah, but I only get information, and I get ideas, and I get the vibration, you could say, whatever you like, okay? Now, I'm going to quote some other human that incarnated here, a being, an entity, whatever I'm not going to say who or what is a god. I know this world is controlled by a certain god. Okay, I've said that before. Or what we acknowledge and allow to rule and be God and create, and let us create for the entity in their domain. Okay, now, but I've gone off track. I'm trying to say, I don't know what to make of most things, okay? But there was an individual, I think, a long time ago. I do not follow things. I do not have an understanding of the histories, the religions, the written words. I get little pieces. If someone gives me a so-called soundbite and it sounds good, I would use it. To me, it becomes almost a reality. It makes sense. It becomes a truth to me. So what I'm going to say is that there was an individual a long time ago, I believe. I do not know if this individual walked the earth. I do not know what their true purpose was. I do not know if they accomplished it. I do not know if they succeeded or if they failed. It would certainly appear that if I listened to some of the stuff that it was not a success. But forgetting that, there was, I have not read these books or any books that pertain to religion or belief systems or gods. But I know little bits of things because just being in the real world, it's a bit like you may not follow a particular actor, but you may have heard their name. You may not watch their movies, but you may have still heard of their name. And you may not follow politics, but you might know who your prime minister or president is, you know, that sort of thing. So it's like that. But there was an individual who supposedly walked the earth a long time ago. And he supposedly was asked, I think, if he was God, who he was. You will have to look this up once again. Look it up yourself. I'm sure some people will know it anyway. I'm ignorant. But it just came to me the other day. He was asked, what are you? Or are you God? And this individual replied to that question you know, who are you? What is God? Are you God? And he replied, because it was a he back then, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Now, what does that mean? I thought that was an interesting, what they'd call a soundbite or a fancy statement of some sort. What does that mean? The Father is God, evidently. No one comes to me, or the Father, no one comes to the Father except through me. This gentleman, this being, this person, this human at the time, said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to me, to the Father, or I'm getting this wrong, no one comes to the Father, the God, except through me. And that individual said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. No one comes to the Father, the God, except through the way, the truth, and the life. You see, so that to me makes some sort of weird sense. It's not about that Father, that God is telling you that the only way, the truth, and the life No one comes to the Father, the God, except through the way, the truth, and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. Life. Evil, backwards, is live. Anti-life, anti-live. We live in an anti-live, anti-life world. We live in an upside-down reverse world. You have been lied to, the sticker says. Everything in reverse. Truth is lies, lies is truth. The way. Clearly we're taking a different way. Our truth and our life is now technology. Is it the truth? Is it life? Is technology life? Or is it a machine? See, so interesting. Almost say profound, if I dare say it, because it's profound for me anyway. Because I don't follow these things. I just heard the saying and it hit a chord somehow. What it really means is up to you. But if you go along that line, then there's the simple answer to touching God, or what you would consider to be some sort of God, I would think, if you are of that mindset. So the way, that way, to follow the example of whatever that example is, whatever that person is, whatever that being is, their way, the truth. Well, you know, if you're not interested in truth and you don't try to find it, clearly, you know, then you are not going to go to your highest level, I wouldn't think. You're not going to find your what is it? Origins? A true God? I don't know. And the life. Well, if you don't want life, then you want death. You know, so oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. But yeah, so that is kind of like how I see the fantasy world in a way, even though I am not of any denominations or affiliations, but technology does appear to be the anti-life, if you go along with my fantasy of what we originally really were. And so we're headed more towards going away from the way, the truth, and life. Now, to me, that is strange and, yes, negative. But of course, if you're in a world that is so full of everything being fake, of course, it's going to be very hard for you to find what you'd call, yes, the way, the truth, and the life. you're probably going to go the wrong way. You're probably going to go for the lies and the deception, and you're probably going to go for fake life, death, really, because if you cease to be really natural, high spiritual life, that is death of the human being. It is a death, really, I would say, even though I don't fully understand it, and I'm probably sound as though I'm talking silly, and it sounds that way, but I can't quite grasp it myself. But it's one thing to have information and transfer thoughts and to exchange information. It's purely intellectual. It's not spiritual. You can have spirituality and you can have intellect together. If you have them both together, you will be at a very good level. But if you only have one, particularly if it's only intellect, because even if you have just spirituality with not a lot of intellect, you'll probably still understand basic truths. The way, the truth, and the life, you see. You will still understand basic truths. You may not be able to converse with and ramble like I think I'm doing now, where I think I'm impressive talking a lot of gibberish in a way. You will only understand, but you will know what the real truth is. You will know how to keep your vibration high. You probably have a higher vibration than me, because intellect has nothing to do with spirituality or high vibration. Intellect is really only deciphering information. And if you're given false information, you may be very smart and clever in the way you interpret that, but you could be putting together a totally false scenario, even though you may be even though you may even impress. It's a bit like you might even have a breakthrough, but you still won't know the whole picture, shall we say. In fact, you could even, like I say, if you're advancing in a technological way, you will keep advancing in that. So it will be impressive. I'll get I'll get a better mobile phone to do this, and I could do it better and have more gadgets on it. And so I shall think that I'm intellectually more advanced. I shall get a stronger mobile phone. I shall get stronger technology to advance my so-called intellect. Of course, then I will be making the world more artificial and more technological. So then my world will change. And then I will complain that my world has changed. But I will still say, I want to have something more powerful. I want to keep advancing that way, because this is now my crutch. This is now helping my intellect. This is advancing me. That I don't know whether I'm putting that very well, but we do just keep going, and you can have clever people that will make these things more advanced. They will get more advanced. But are we knowing really more truth? That's the thing. Are we just becoming intellectually advanced, but not knowing really the truth of anything? Certainly not knowing what we were or what we were meant to be, I wouldn't think. We no longer want paradise. We don't think that it ever existed. We don't believe in what is natural and what is organic, and we don't believe that we are the superior species on this earth anymore, either, do we? Because if we did, we wouldn't be using technology. So humans are belittling themselves, downgrading themselves deliberately. Even in their own mind, they think that, subconsciously probably, they're like, hey, I can't fix that naturally. I can't, I can't regenerate my body, so I better get an artificial stick. I better get something artificial, technological, something made of some other material to replace the degenerative parts. Because we don't believe that we should be able to heal ourselves or regenerate our body ourselves. That's just another example. And certainly we're not able to do it because we are in a technological world where we don't have that ability now. And we certainly aren't trying to get it back. And we're not making our world more natural to where we can go back to being what we should have been and what we originally were meant to be in my fantasy world. Yeah, so there we have it. Now, I was going to say that, see, I have these ideas to put, and I sometimes get a thought of how to put them really well, but then when I go to make the video, I still have the words there, but I don't know how to put it as well. Because it's a bit stressful making a video, to tell you the truth. It's, it's not like when you're on your own, that's right, and you're just a human being and you're just thinking to yourself. Well, actually, we're never thinking to ourselves because the Matrix has the technology to intercept everything now. That makes it very difficult to realise that. Most people don't realise that. Most people don't realise that their thoughts are not their own, that they're literally a program being programmed. Like, how far you want to take that is up to yourself. Like I would say that level is so much higher. It's not just a matter of me turning on, the media, a movie, turning the TV on, turning an appliance on, turning a computer on, looking at a documentary, looking at information about what's going on. It's not a matter of that. That's obvious programming. That happens to everyone. You are what you eat and you are what you think. And what you think is what you are given to think. Unless you say to yourself, hey, I'm in the Matrix. I can see the message, but I can see two messages here. And I can see that one wants me to buy something and wants me to buy it for a reason, whether that be to get my money or to change me into a different type of person that acts and looks different, or or I can consciously make a choice and say, I can see this. My intuition tells me I can see this. I can see what they are doing. I can see that they want me to change my brand. I can see that they want me to change my persona. I can see that they want me to change my hair color. I can see that they want me to change my way of thinking about something. I can see that they want me to adopt a new fashion. I can see that they want me to adopt a new idea. Do I like that idea? Do I really personally, if I had not been given that enticement, that advertisement, that information, would I be thinking that? And do I think that that is a good idea? Do I think it is really me? Do I think it is true too? Like some information you might say, well, okay, that's I watch an actor in a movie. I know they're acting. But if I see that same actor in an interview afterwards, do I believe that then that person is then being real, or are they still acting? I have that choice. based on information, should I still think they're acting, or should I think they are now 100% honest and real? Are they promoting what they really think themselves? Are they promoting themselves? Are they promoting an idea? Are they trying to make you like them? Are they trying to make you better? Or are they just giving you their own random thoughts about things and saying, hey, you can do what you want, but hey, please accept me as I am. But also, are you then, even if you know that, even if you say they're authentic, they're genuine, they are what they are, I'm what I am, I like them, should I copy them? Should I accept their ideas, even though I might like them in a movie, but should I accept their ideas that they think as a person? Should I separate the two, if you follow me? You know what I'm saying? It'd be a bit like I've had some film stars that I've liked years ago, and I thought that I knew them. I thought they had a certain type of personality, even in real life, not so much even in the movies, but also in real life, because occasionally you'll get a really good, nice, kind, what you think is a nice, kind, genuine actor, and sometimes they'll play a serial killer, and you say, but that's just acting. You know, what if in reverse they really got the mindset really of the serial killer and they're not really the nice person? You know, I mean, is that a possibility, or am I you know, is that you know, which is the real thing? You know, you know, we want to believe what we want to believe. We don't like to. I don't like to think that, yes, like that sticker said on the seat that I sat on 2 days ago, that I've been lied to. I don't like to think that I've been deceived. You don't like to fall in love with someone only to find out that that person can't stand you and would like to destroy you. You don't like to think that your favourite movie star, you know, is really the complete opposite to what you thought they were, because it means that you think that you're then been fooled. But, you know, the sticker on the seat did tell me, in black and white, I might add, it was only a little sticker, but it said, you have been lied to. And yes, I have been lied to. And it's always difficult and stressful and disappointing, and makes you angry to think that you would have wasted so much time on, yes, the wrong person, the wrong life, following liking the wrong actors perhaps, or at least liking what you thought was real, only to discover that it's something else. So then that means that your whole perception has been a lie. That's right, that you have been lied to, and you bought it. You bought that lie. But you didn't know it was a lie, of course. And then when you find out or get information that might show that what you believe wasn't true, then you have the choice to say, do I keep believing the lie? Do I keep liking the actor? But actually, it's hard to let go of that, because if you've done it for a long time, and you've enjoyed it, and it's been some sort of, I don't know, you know, you've wasted a lot of time on it too. This is another thing too, but the time element is something that you have to let go of, and that's very hard, because if you wasted your whole life on a lot of lies and wrong things, or deceptions, or to where you just got it wrong, because there again, you know, you have that choice. But you know, if you don't, if you read a book and you believe that book, particularly if they say it's an autobiography, you know, your favorite film star, you read a book and it's an autobiography. It's not a non-fiction book. It's not a fiction book, it's a non-fiction book. So you believe it. You say, hey, there might be a little bit of falseness in it, because then you might read another one that might have something slightly different, but in general, it'll probably fit, because the matrix does like things to fit. The matrix doesn't leave too many gaps. It, however, is forced to show the truth as well. This is the strange thing about the matrix, and that's what makes most people not think that it can be true, because the matrix is like the Matrix movie in the sense that you're in the matrix, but you don't know you're in the matrix. You don't believe in the Matrix movie. You don't believe that the Matrix is a real movie that actually is happening on our earth. But what makes it, I'm getting confused here, what makes it extra hard to actually realize that is that you're in a matrix which is largely all false. It's a video game, so naturally it's all set up, the players, everything is set up and everything is orchestrated. It's a chess game that they know your moves before you make them. They set up the situation. You know, it's like that. It's complicated, but it's very simple in a way. It is just a construct, but it's not your construct. It's another entity's construct, and other humans even that work for the matrix, shall we say, and even humans that don't consciously work for the matrix set it up too, because if you get paid to do a certain job, you just think you're getting your money for your little job. All sorts of, as some have said to me, yeah. So in other words, you only work in your little department, so you think that's all it is, but it's really part of a bigger construct, a bigger thing. So you're working for the, most people are working for the matrix. Most people are programmed by the matrix, and the matrix itself is just one big gigantic program controlled by one big corporation, if you like, one big organization that is controlled, no doubt, by a leader. That is the God entity that I use that, because a God is something that is controlling and operating everything. And also, if you accept that and you say, this reality I like, I accept, or I go along with it, even if you do nothing, as I've done most of my life, that is the same as going along with it in a way, because if you don't put up the opposition to the matrix, then the matrix proceeds, you see. And most of us do that. We just, you know, because we don't know that the matrix is negative, and the humans, as I've said before, are meant to positively come against it. They have to keep the matrix in balance. That's why the matrix is here, for humans to, I believe now, to actually deliberately come into their own and operate at a positive level. In other words, to say no when they're meant to, instead of always saying yes or being a people pleaser like I tended to have been. I basically used to, that I don't like to say no to people. I don't even have to like the people. I could know that they're naughty. I could know that they are liars. I could know they're cheats. I could know they were doing some wrong things, but I still would not like to say no to them, because I didn't see the bigger picture anyway. So I thought, hey, even if they're a bit naughty, a little bit of naughtiness don't count. I didn't think that that naughtiness spreads over the entire world, that everything negative is passed on. I didn't know the potential of the human beings, just as the human beings don't know their potential, and I didn't know it either. And I didn't practice it, and I didn't see it, because we're not in the opposition, because we haven't come up against and balanced it out and said no to a few things, come up against the negativity, because anything that isn't to your life benefit, isn't to your human advancement benefit, anything that isn't the way, the truth, and the life, is not going to really benefit you. You might survive for longer, but eventually it will destroy you because it is not to your benefit. So if you don't come up against it, if you just ignore it, as I've done, and say, oh, well, yeah, a little bit more technology, it don't matter. Like if people want to be mind controlled by the technology, let them. I'm a bit mind controlled by it myself. I'll go and do this and that. But if other people want to totally let it mind control them, that's their right. I'm not going, I would have said, hey, I'm not going to do that as much myself because I just don't like it. But if they like it, they can do it. But what I didn't realise was that if you don't at least show them that, or at least if you let it happen completely, unfortunately, I think my main problem with a lot of this stuff is not so much even, look, there is a bit, obviously I have a big, I see it as all very negative, but at the same time, I have heard other people say, right, very intellectual people too, I might add, you can watch some of them on the YouTube and stuff, and they are the movers in this world. They are the intellects. They are the so-called geniuses. They are the scientists, the doctors, the whatever, in all their fields. And some of them even go even beyond their fields, But the thing is that what I'm saying is that, I heard one sir say that, hey, he's like saying to me, obviously not directly to me because I'm just watching the video. He's saying to me, look, he's saying, I look forward, he's saying, to being connected to artificial computer technology. I see that he sees that as the only way for the human to survive. And he is an intellectual person and a purely cerebral, as his own word he uses, psychological type of person. He's only interested in the intellect. And he likes to intellectualize everything, and he knows an astronomical amount about everything and anything, and I have gained much information from him about various things, but up to this point he is someone who basically says, look, hey, in the future I will look forward and not fearful of technology. I will look forward to interacting with technology. I have no problem having a conversation with what he would have called an artificial intelligent being. He said, if it looks like a human, if it talks like a human, and it's intellectually more interesting than some humans that I know, I not only want to interact with that and have no problem with it and actually will enjoy it, but I also would like to replace myself that way and become more that way. And even my body, if I can extend it in any way at an artificial level, I have no problem, he said, in throwing away my perfect human body, or not perfect now, but a human body that's supposed to have 100% potential with DNA that is 99% almost inactive. I'm not interested in activating that. It's just what they call junk DNA, no use. But I would definitely replace all my parts with any sort of artificial substance. I think his words were replace carbon with silicon or various other materials, etc. I can't remember, but because I'm not at his intellectual level, that's right. But he's saying, but if someone like me, wants to stay 100% human and doesn't want to particularly interact or become synthetic, shall we say, or become artificial or become technical, that is your right, and we can coexist side by side. You can do, and I respect that for him to say that. But what I would have to add is that it is not working that way, for me anyway, because foolish, but I would not stop him. You know, he can live somewhere, it's a big earth, he can live somewhere and have his technology and operate it and become technological more if he wants to. He can become a robot, he can become whatever he chooses, because unfortunately it is still our right, even though most of us are pretty, I would dispute that because we're so programmed and downloaded. But the thing is that I would respect that, and I was glad to hear that. But the only problem is that his technology invades my space. My idea doesn't invade his space. If I stay a human, he can. I'm quite happy for him to stay to be technological, but his technology invades my space because he doesn't just have technology in his own house and I can have a natural house, shall we say. No, his technology invades my house. So he makes me become technological whether I want to or not, because I've got his frequencies going through my body, you see. So his statement is respectful and good, but it is not a reality, and he should know that because he's an intellectual man. This world is covered by technology. There's no human beings that can live and grow and evolve into a natural human being. Not unless, well, actually, I suppose they could, but you'd have to, yes, raise the frequency enormously. And that's the problem. We're having trouble. We shouldn't have to, though. And if we were in a more natural environment, that frequency would just rise naturally. I wouldn't have to be intellectualizing and looking for everything. None of us would have to be saying, oh, this is a lie, this is true, we're in a reverse world. Yeah, we have to continually analyze and look at every single thing. We have to be aware that we're in a matrix. But we do, because this is the reality. But we shouldn't have to do that, because if we're in a natural world with none of those negative things that we think are positive, but it's a bit like, you know, if you think having, I can't use an example, but if you thought that smoking a cigarette was healthy, but it's really not so healthy, you know, it's like that. You're not in a world that you think you're in. You're smoking a cigarette thinking it's healthy and not being aware. Whereas at least if you're aware, if you know you're in the matrix or you know the thing, then you might be able to counter it a bit more in some way. But, you know, we're not in that position. We are smoking thinking that it's healthy, thinking that it's doing us good, thinking that it's a benefit. But like I say, you're not given a choice because, yes, the passive smoking is everywhere. You know, like that's why they stop people from smoking in all the clubs and things. By the way, I'm not for all rules and things. I do not like any rules. So even though I'm using this example, I actually would prefer it if people were allowed to smoke wherever they want. Even though it does damage, there is a bit of truth to the passive smoking thing. But because we're in a matrix, I think we need to dismantle a little bit more of the matrix, because at least we were more free when we did those things, even if they were injurious. It's one thing to make the world what appears to be safer. It's no good people not being smoking in a club, in every club in the country, if you've got negative energy vibrating all through the air and through your planet anyway. You see, it's you've got to clean up everything. You can't just clean up a few little things and focus on them and think that they're going to change the world. They're not, because the whole world is covered in much more anti-human, anti-life type. So therefore, what goes through the air has even more effect than what you're even taking into your body. You know, so in a way, because it's there all the time. It's It's a bit like if you're not breathing oxygen, it's probably not going to matter if you're eating a bit of bad food or something, because you're going to be compromised. Making sense here, or putting. See, I don't have things planned, so unfortunately, I have to come up with examples very quick, and that's not easy. And especially, I'm sure if I had more time, I could think up some better ones. But in this world, I'm rambling again. Trying to think of something else that I was going to talk about some movies, but I think I'll have to. I will use an. Oh. We live in, I used to like dolls, right? I'm going back onto dolls, not the life dolls, not the ones that people think are real and maybe get attached to or fall in love with, much less talking, walking, thinking ones that whatever. But I'm going to just use another example of something in a fantasy way. We're in a doll world, okay? Let's just say we're in a world of dolls. We're all dolls. We're all Barbie dolls, because I know Barbie dolls, okay? We're in a Barbie world. Do you remember the song? I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, wrapped in plastic. It's fantastic. That was the song. Very catchy. We are in a Barbie world. And yes, a lot of people are Barbie girls. And yes, they are wrapped in plastic. They're technological, they're artificial in that sense, because they think that way. They don't, they're very much into the material, which is what I think the song was saying. I think that's what the song was saying. At the time when I listened to this song, I thought it was just the cutest song. I had liked some Barbie dolls when I was young. I thought it was all about the colour pink. And I thought, what a catchy, cute song. Nothing more, nothing less. Now I see it different, I guess, a few years later. Well, maybe more than a few years, that song. But yes, it's a Barbie world. But I'm going to be silly here, I think. See, there are Barbie dolls, right? They're all the same size. They're all about 12 inches tall. They all have certain proportions. Some of them have different colour hair, different styles, and lots of different clothes. But they all are of the same mould. They're all the same species. Barbie dolls are all Barbie doll species. But in that Barbie doll species, you have different types of Barbie dolls. They're all of the same mould, the same basic size, but they have different characteristics, a bit like humans, like we are on this earth, really. We all are humans, or, well, like, yeah, we all look human, okay? But we don't all look the same. We have different races, different colours, different, different whatever. But anyway, we have the Barbie dolls. Oh, I'm not going to do this well. We have the Barbie dolls. The Barbie dolls are made by a factory, a company called Mattel, very big company. They produce all the Barbie doll species. Lots of different Barbie dolls, but they're all the same species, of a general basic same type. They all come from the same maker, same factory. But when I was a child, we had Barbie dolls. They were very popular. They were the predominant species. But they were the predominant doll in the world. became very popular. They spread. In England, we had the Cindy doll. But in England, we had the Cindy doll. Cindy doll was the same size too. She had there were slight differences. She didn't come from the exact same mold as the Barbie doll. She was made by a different company called Pedigree. Very big in England and even in Australia where I am, but not as big as Barbie. There was more Barbie dolls, more popular. Barbie doll bred better, you could say. She was more popular, so they made more of her, okay? If you want to look at it this way. I'm trying to put a bit of a smart, sorry for that word, an analogy. Is that the word? Analogy. The Cindy doll was similar to the Barbie doll, made by a different company, a different maker, different creator. But she looked similar. She could wear the same clothes as Barbie. She had a slightly bigger head, different face, but similar, but not the same. And actually a different species, a different company, a different factory made her. Barbie was factory. And there were other dolls too, less and less popular. They were the ones that I remember that were Barbie, always big, and track onto dolls because I have a bit of an interest. I used to have a bit of an interest in dolls before the Matrix closed down even that reality, because there's nothing wrong with being there's nothing wrong with oh, gee, the computer's too quick for me. There's nothing wrong with focusing on the physical, provided you don't think that's all there is, I would think. But also it's hard not to focus on it. In fact, if it raises your frequency, I'd say if playing with dolls raises your frequency and you can't do anything else, I would say, I would say definitely do it, because I personally believe that, as I've said before, that if I had not been made aware of the Matrix, not woke up to a different kind of reality and not believed in the fairy tales and not believed in not believed in that, not become 100% aware that was actually just as real as what I now call the fake world. But you see, but the thing is that, if I had just lived simply and just raised the vibration by being content, even in a physical way, that probably would have still done more good, because that frequency spreads and then that can change things. People become more aware, because that's what I actually think. I think that because I think that's what happened with myself, because I wasn't doing anything. Like I'm talking now about a lot of things, but I never thought that way I did it. And yet the Matrix doesn't, doesn't sometimes like even simple things. It will try to direct you along a different line, even if you're doing something quite innocent and simple. That yeah, I've gone off track anyway. The Cindy dolls were from England. They were made by a different creator, a different company, a different manufacturer. And there were other dolls that were all of that same size. They could all wear the same clothes. I think they were called teenage fashion dolls. That was what Barbie originally was. This is just an example. Supposing they are humans, okay? You see? There are Barbie dolls. There are Cindy dolls. There are Tammy dolls. There are Judy dolls. I don't know all the different ones, but they're all, some are The Barbie was the first, the original type. Well, I think Cindy was, I'm getting, I didn't use a very good example. Perhaps the doll example isn't a very good one. But you see, they all look the same or similar, but they're actually not the same. They're not the same species. Barbie is not the same species as Cindy. Cindy is not the same species as Tammy or some other. But if you were looking superficially, they look as though they are the same species. They're all dolls. They're all dolls of the same size, of similar proportions, similar whatever, you know. But they're not the same. They come from a totally different creator. And there ends my silly little thing on dolls. And, you know, you've got to make that what you will, you know, like, and I'm not saying that a Barbie doll is better than a Cindy doll or whatever, but certainly there were clones, and they called them clones. There were clones of the Barbie doll. They were very cheaply made by comparison with the Barbie doll. They looked cheap. They were you could buy them for a lot less. They were very poorly made. They were frail. They didn't have very good face paint quality. They didn't have quality. They were a cheap knockoff. That's right. But they were clone. They called them clone dolls, you know. So they had those too. Come to think of it, I just forgot that. I just come to me. You can still buy them all. You can buy them all on the eBay and things, you know. So you can have a look for yourself if you don't believe me. But all these dolls existed at the same time, you know. And they actually existed, all these dolls existed when I was young at the same time. But Barbie was the top, you know, and would have been classed as the most quality and probably would have been the most expensive, I would think. But Cindy was original too in its own way. It was original, but most of the others were as they. Oh well, you know, maybe some of the others had some originality too. I am being ridiculous. I've gone on to dolls. I can't believe this. Oh dear. But I was trying to just paint a picture that we're in a Barbie world, and yes, it's not all it appears to be, and there are different types of dolls on this earth. Some you could probably see as a doll, some, you know, but I didn't put this very well. You'll have to make of it what you will. So there you have the Barbie dolls, the Cindy dolls. There, you know, you can buy which one you want. You can like which one you want. You can be which one you want. Do you want to be a Barbie doll? Do you want to be a Cindy doll? You know, do you want to be a doll at all? You know, but genius. I mean, he's a genius. This intellectual gentleman that does videos. He is actually a genius because he tells you that he's a genius, because he says my IQ is 100, 195. That's pretty high by most human standards, I would say. By most human standards indeed. But you know, I do not know the gentleman, so, you know, I only go on the video. So what do I know if he's a Barbie doll, a Cindy doll, or a Tammy doll, you know? But he's certainly high intellect anyway, and very interesting. But yes, he did say that he was quite happy to go along the technological lines and has no fear of it and would desire it. But like I say, you know, in this world, as I've said before, and I'm repeating myself. You can be a Barbie doll, a Cindy doll, or any doll, or no doll. You can be a teddy bear if you want to be, or should be able to be. But it's a bit like, right. Oh, yeah, I've got another example with the dolls. Just come to me. Okay. So we have the Barbie dolls, we have the Cindy dolls, we have all of dolls, but some of them have gone and fell by the wayside, okay? Some of those dolls have died out, where they're not making them anymore, but they're still making Barbie. She's still alive and well at this stage. A few years back, they had the Bratz doll, which started to overtake the Barbie doll in sales. So Barbie wiped Bratz out. Not by sales, because the Bratz doll was starting to take over Barbie's domain. Her throne that she'd had for 50 years and still does have. But I went to the store to look at the dolls. This was back a few years ago now, when you still went to the store and looked at the dolls, instead of looking on the computer, which is what we do now, which is what I do too. And in that store, whereas I used to see aisles and aisles of Barbie dolls, I saw a small amount of Barbie dolls and more Bratz dolls. And I actually was surprised. I thought, goodness gracious, what are these dolls? There's so many more of them. And aren't they cute? Aren't they interesting? They're different to Barbie, but they're of that same thing where you put the clothes on and whatever. And basically they were ready to wipe Barbie out. So Barbie wiped them out. This actually happened because you can't buy Bratz anymore. And yet they were, just from my perspective, and they won't actually say this completely, but I saw this in the store. So, and I'm a doll. I had looked into the dolls. I had been looking at them for a while. And they were going to overtake Barbie in sales. And they were putting more on the shelf for that reason. So Barbie, there was some sort of real, there was a legal battle where Barbie launched an attack on the Bratz doll and took the Bratz company, the Bratz maker, the Bratz creators, their whole company, to court and said that Bratz were stealing Barbie's image and that they had copied Barbie. And that was an infringement of some sort of copyright or something. And they actually won because Bratz were stopped from making Bratz dolls. They were really hitting the heights. They were making huge money, and and Barbie won that. And hey, I look at the dolls, and to me, I was surprised because the Bratz doll was not really like the Barbie doll at all. In fact, the Bratz doll was much less like the Barbie doll than the Cindy doll and all those other dolls that I said were around with Barbie. And they were clearly allowed to operate because they were not a threat to Barbie. Barbie was still the biggest seller. Bratz became a threat to Barbie. It became a survival thing. Barbie won. But she won underhandedly because in the sense that the Bratz doll, you do this yourself. Go and look at a Bratz doll, go and look at a Barbie doll. There's no comparison. They're not the same size. They're not the same body. You can't, the head is hugely bigger. The whole face is different. The only thing they have in common is that you can put clothes on them and that they're both, they're not hugely different in the size, but there is different. The whole thing, the Bratz doll was an originally made doll. It was not a copy of Barbie. It was not a clone of Barbie. And the clones were allowed to exist anyway back in the day. And all the ones that were similar to Barbie were allowed to coexist with it, provided that they only had small sales. But Bratz was totally original, and it was about to knock Barbie off. Maybe wipe Barbie out even. So maybe Barbie had to come back and totally wipe the Bratz out, which is what happened. But the only reason I mentioned is because the Bratz dolls were original, and they were Yeah, they were from a totally different manufacturer. They were not a clone. They did not copy Barbie in any way. They were completely original, invented, and they probably had a right to survive in a way, I would say. Myself, I thought they were very cute and they were different. But yes, but see, Barbie's been around for a long time. I mean, sometimes if you're king for a long time, doesn't matter if you've been on the throne for way past your use-by date, you're not going to relinquish your crown too easy. So it's not like Barbie hasn't had a great run and hasn't been one of the, and she certainly does keep bringing out new things. So I can't deny that. But she certainly saw the Bratz doll as a threat and basically wiped her out. But I don't think that it was legitimate, even though it was a proper court case, because you only have to look at the two dolls. Like if you've got two eyes, you can see that they're not, that there's no way that the Bratz doll copied the Barbie doll or stole anything from Barbie. In fact, rather the reverse in a way, because Barbie actually released a doll that was around when Bratz was around that actually had much bigger eyes and different facial, a different mold, you could almost say, that they released at the time, which was a knockoff of the Bratz doll. They tried it first to just knock the Bratz off by bringing out a type of Barbie Bratz version themselves, which was a very good doll too, by the way. I rather liked it. It was very good. But they stole that from the Bratz doll. So any stealing was really the other way around. But that was just what I saw anyway. You look at the dolls yourself, you can see it for yourself. Anyone could see it. But but Barbie were very clever because they did put up a good fight. They figured they had nothing to lose, and I don't know quite how they won that really, but because to me there seemed no logic to it in a way, and this world does tend to operate by logic, but who knows, even these days a lot of logic goes out. These days even your eyes are not regarded as, seeing anything. It's kind of like, a line from some TV show I'm thinking of. Oh, I do try to be, let me see. Like this girl says in this quite well-known TV show that I did actually get a bit addicted to watching. In fact, that's another example of programming, because yes, it comes to me now that I was aware of this TV show. It was very, very popular. And it's still going, I think, but it went for years and years and years, very popular. Everyone would know it. I don't mention names on my videos if I can help it. I have on occasion, but I don't want to, and I shouldn't do it, and I don't want to do it. And it's not personal. I don't like to be personal. I don't think it's a good idea. It's not how I feel about things. I don't like to personally attack things because none of what I say is personal. It's all ideas. It's all fantasy, okay? First saw it on the television. I didn't watch it, but I saw the advertisements, which you can't avoid advertisements. And it was very popular. And I thought, I wouldn't watch that show ever because the characters looked too scientifically, I thought I'm not going to watch a show about scientists and that sort of stuff. It just didn't appeal to me. It's not the way these days, of course, yeah, I will, but no, I wouldn't do that. It was just not my cup of tea, shall we say. And I knew it, so I avoided it for years. But then after a few years, I got seduced, you could say, to have a peek at it by other influences, other people at the time, not much, but maybe I just thought I'll give it a watch for that reason, almost to please someone else, you could say. And basically I got addicted to it and liked it and watched the shows over and over again, repeated them. And actually liked the characters. And they're characters that I really shouldn't like. I wouldn't have liked them before. I didn't like the idea or the characters, but they seduced me. In other words, they seduced me to like characters, to twist my perception and like characters that I wouldn't have normally liked and that I shouldn't have liked. And they became attractive and desirable, shall we say. And yeah, they became attractive and desirable. And I've gone off track, but essentially that's an example of a program programming you and changing you. Now, what I am trying to say about this particular program was that I didn't want to touch it at first. I knew I wouldn't like it. I find likable or watchable. And I thought it would be boring, actually. Now, because it's comedy, it had comedy stuff, and the actual demeanour of the characters did not appeal to me. Not my type of, yeah, got enticed by very characters that I would have thought were very intellectual, narrow. I'm just trying to find words, but I don't want to be critical. But they were essentially very intellectual, non-feeling. Not all of them, not, but. So originally I had a perception. Then I changed that perception via the programming, shall we say, because clearly the program changed my mind. You know, it's a bit like you say, I don't like that actor, and then you see them in a movie that gets you in somehow, and then all of a sudden you say, oh, I like that actor now. You know, that sort of, it was like that. And but now, third perception of it, I see that TV show back to how I originally seen it, except that it's not that I saw it, originally I saw it as just something that I wouldn't like, that I'm not interested in watching something about a group of scientists. That's not my cup of tea. Whereas now I would say in retrospect that program was able to make me like what I wouldn't have naturally liked. And if that could do that to me, who is reasonably selective in my TV and movie stuff, you know, that would tell me that that would happen to other people too, surely. Because the characters should not be likable originally, or at least a few years back. But now they are regarded as very likable characters. And the show is extremely popular, as I watched it, as I said. So what I'm trying to say is me and a lot of other people's perception probably was enticed and changed that way. And so we now think that that type of character, that cold scientific type of character, is desirable. You know, if I can go back to some of the characters in it, and it becomes like, oh, that would be a good thing to be. And when I think about the show, there was so much in it, much more than what a simple comedy show. A lot of these shows are not simple at all. They have a lot in them. And all I'm saying is that it can change your idea about what you think is a desirable human being for the future. See, in that show, the main character is very intellectual only, really. But that comes across as being a desirable way to be if you watch it enough, because you get addicted to it, and it's funny, and he's funny, and he's interesting, and he's comes across as superior with his arrogant, one-eyed, one-dimensional intellect only kind of mindset. Okay, so the show does change a bit over time and get you even more in by having a bit of romance. But even that is with someone else who's intellectual too. But anyway, it is an interesting program, but I still think that see, some people could, with those particular programs, I'm pretty sure that if you watch them for a bit, some people could point out that the show progresses and does a little bit more human stuff. In other words, the scientist does become more human in the show as time goes on. But I still think that the actual basis of the show does promote that kind of mind. That's what I took from it. And that's what I actually found myself thinking while I was watching it. Because I knew that I was, it's a bit like a lot of movies. You'll see some movies where if you have a really attractive actor in what should be regarded as a negative part, but they throw in a little bit of good stuff as well. Once again, I have avoided certain types of movies because they don't appeal to me. But occasionally, if they pop up on TV or something and I've got nothing else to do, nothing else to watch, and if I've heard that they're Academy Award winning or something, I will be enticed to have a look at them, because I do believe in, I like to keep a bit of an open thing with films. I will try to watch, with films, I will try to do that. If something gets an Academy Award, I'll probably give it a watch, even though if it's a war movie or something, I'll say, I'm not going to watch any war movies. But if it's an Academy Award one or got 5 stars or something and it's regarded as a classic, I will say, hey, I better give this a watch. Maybe there is something in it. And usually there is something in it, so I will do that. You can't afford to be too, one-eyed. But what I'm saying, to be one-eyed. I was just going to say, in this world, it is much easier to be one-eyed. It's much easier to be one-eyed. Once you start seeing too many elements, it becomes confusing for people. I think this is why people don't want to see The Matrix, because The Matrix is confusion. The Matrix is chaos. The Matrix is almost insanity. At a genius level, sure, but even that does not change that it's still chaos. And if you can figure it out, you need to almost be a genius in things. But hey, can it really be that intricate? Can it really be this or that? And you really have to think about it. Most of the time you sort of say, hey, like the sticker on the seat, you've been lied to. Well, yes, it can be. But figuring it out, particularly if you've got no history and you can't see the whole, but if you accept something, it's easier for me in the sense that if you accept that basic premise, a bit like with the human being, then a lot of things flow from that. And that's the whole thing. But if you're coming from, a one-eyed point of view, and even that is, you could say, well, you probably say, well, I'm one-eyed because I'm only seeing, my father used to say, you should never be one-eyed. But he was incredibly one-eyed, so he knew that. That's why he used to say that. If he went to a football match, he didn't care if the other team was better than his team. He didn't care if his team was doing more dirty stuff than the other side. He would only see the one-eyed that the other side was the bad one. And that's what one-eyed is. And that's I think that, well, you know what one-eyed is, but one-eyed is easier for people. Like if people believe a lie or believe something false, it's often easier for them because they think that's the truth and they don't have to think about it. They don't have to go into this chaotic duality, insane, complicated, destructive, battling matrix that is. It becomes too much for most people. It's too much for me. It becomes too hard. It's much easier to be one-eyed and accept even the lie. It's much easier to accept a simple earth and say, hey, yeah, we've got a few problems, but we can fix them up. We don't have to really analyse it or go and really find, the truth. And we've long since not interested in the way, the truth, or the life. because we're not really spiritual anyway. We're intellectual now. We're technical and intellectual. So we're not really interested necessarily in the truth. The truth is our technology. It does not lie to us. And it doesn't matter if it's one-eyed. It doesn't matter if it's narrow. We like that because it's comfortable. It's easier. It's much easier to be one-eyed. It's too hard to open up both eyes. And also, maybe, you know, we don't believe that we have the ability to change it either, because we don't think that we are spiritual beings. We don't think we are human beings. And some of us aren't, in the sense that we have veered so far away from it. Once you become totally technological, whether it be in your psychological way of thinking about it, whether you're addicted to the technology and you think that that is how you really should think and that you should follow that and take notice of that and believe that, then, you know, you become technological even at that level. That's like a mind control. And what your mind thinks is what you are. So if you're controlled by technology, if you believe everything technology tells you, if you need it, if you use it all the time and you believe everything that's on it, and hey, I'm not saying there's not truth on technology, because half the stuff I've got is from looking at stuff to try to figure things out. But you can't blindly be one-eyed, totally obsessed with it and totally think that it is the whole thing. Because, I've got myself confused here again, because as I've said before, I shouldn't be, I'm sorry to be shouting. I live in a fantasy world, so I get angry because I believe the fantasy, okay? So I'll correct myself there. But it's one thing to be one-eyed and to go with the technology or believe what you're told. It's easier. It's easier, much easier. But if I've lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. But, you know, even allowing for this, as I've said before, yes, we are in the matrix. If you believe that, okay? If you believe the Matrix movie is not fantasy. I believe in fantasies. I believe the movies are real. Movies are fairy tales that I believe, as I've said before. But the thing is that because it is a matrix, this is the strange thing about it. This is where we get so confused. It makes it even more confusing. But this is where if you're a bit younger than me and you can just try to keep a clear head, even though you're in the matrix, and yes, the seat says you've been lied to, and yes, the matrix does operate with duality and does put up opposition to the human being. The matrix is almost trying to make human beings think and wake up. Now, whether it really wants to, that's up to you. You can believe whatever God you want. You can believe some of the stuff I say. You can believe anything you like, okay? But you can believe that even good can come of bad. Sometimes, as my old doctor used to say years ago, sometimes good people do bad things. That is definitely the case in the Matrix. You see a lot of what I would say probably are good people. I don't know that even for sure, because like I say, we're Barbie dolls, we're Cindy dolls. We're not all the same, but they could be the same, but they're still doing bad things, and good people doing bad things, and sometimes even bad people can do good things, because that's the deception of the Matrix too. You know, if you want someone to like you, if you're a naughty person and you want someone to like you, do them a good turn. They'll like you. Then you've got them in your palm and you can squash them, you know. So it's like that. The world is like that. It's a confusion world. But what I'm saying is that the matrix does that and can bring out the best as well as the worst. But there's a choice. It's that choice element, although we're now limiting our choice and suppressing our natural instincts and even our ability to clearly think, to see the two choices a lot of the time. We do tend to just go along with the matrix, but that's a choice too, as I say. But the matrix does show the truth. It has to. It may not even want to. I don't know. I don't know if it wants to or if it's forced to. But it definitely does. It'll show both sides. But if you're one-eyed, you won't see both eyes. You'll only see one side. The matrix likes its followers and those that are in the matrix, the humans and anything else that's here, likes you to be one-eyed because, you know, the matrix God is one-eyed. You know, like if you've got a vision, if you've got your own agenda, shall we say, your own idealized world, you are one-eyed. You're not about having, like that gentleman said, where I can be natural and he can be a cyborg. You're not interested in that. You want everyone to be, and you'll make it so that you will, you know, that's what one-eyed is. You're not really interested in everyone doing their own thing. And if I feel different to you, you know, that I can do my thing and you can do yours. I can be a natural human being, like what he was saying. You can stay a regular human being, but I want to be a cyborg, he's saying. I'm only interested in the intellect. I don't believe in spiritual. I don't believe we've got other abilities. I don't believe we can progress on that line. You know, I'm not interested in that. Don't believe in it anyway. Don't think it's true. That's, you know, and he's entitled to that. And I you know, don't agree with it, but respect his right. But what I was saying was that, yeah, you know, as I said before, unfortunately, in this one-eyed world, because it is a matrix and controlled by a one-eyed entity that only has an idealized version of what they think is correct for everyone, because a God tends to be like that. A God that thinks it's a God, or if you make it a God, its idealization of what the perfect world will be, what his or her vision will be, not a free world where I can be what I want and someone else can be that, or you have a choice. But we have to have choice. We're shown the truth because, and that's why I say we must be beings that have some right here, or that have some right to some life or some choice, because otherwise the truth would not be shown. And clearly in the matrix, there is much deception, but there is also the truth is shown too. It's just that we don't always see it because the matrix makes us one-eyed and wants us only to see one thing as truth rather than to see the possibilities, because there's always the choice. There really is possibilities, but you know, it's what you believe and what direction you choose to go. Don't think I'm putting this very well, but yeah, there's always that truth has to be shown, because otherwise I wouldn't be thinking and saying there's the matrix, because there wouldn't be allowed those bits of truth. I wouldn't even be saying what I'm saying. I wouldn't even be giving my fantasy a version. But of course that will depend on how the world goes too, because you know, that could change. Because if humans say, hey, we don't want to hear about her fantasy, then please go away. So it may not be like that fella says, where you're entitled to even express your fantasy. You know what I'm saying? You know, because, you know, maybe they won't like you to. I will go into this in another video. There's a movie that I saw years ago called Fahrenheit 451, I think. Saw it years and years ago. We'll try to see it again, but I don't think I can get a copy. But at the time, I didn't quite get it. But once again, now that I'm a little bit more interested, a little bit more aware, I used to watch all these moves and join, but I only saw them at one level. Now I can see them at a second level, you see. And that's because I now realize that this world has more than one level, and I see it more. I don't see it as just one-dimensional now, shall we say. I see that there are more other sides to everything. And there's two sides to every story, as they say. Whereas in the past, I only saw one side, one-eyed, like the Matrix, the one-eyed God, etc. You know, if someone doesn't, I apologize for these videos in a way, because the whole purpose in originally doing it was to slowly and simply just show a possibility that there are other elements to our environment, and that we should question things more, and that we should operate more on instinct. And if instinct or our natural self says perhaps this is not quite wrong, but another side says, oh, I don't want to do that, but on the other hand, if they give me a few dollars, I'll do it. You'll be enticed by the matrix, by the material, say. You know what I'm saying? You know, like, oh, you know, we can all do things sometimes if there's something in it for us. But if we wouldn't do that if there was no incentive, a material incentive, then probably we're going against our natural instincts, and that could defeat us down the track, because that's what I've done all my life. I've always went with the easy way out, as I've said. Went with what, you know, like, you know, if I was going to lose a bit or something one way, I'd probably do something, you know, that I would now say didn't serve me and doesn't serve you spiritually, because spiritually means that really you won't have to feel guilty or bad about it, and it will come back at you even at a physical level anyway. So it's not even just about, you know, because really we do live in a spiritual world in a funny kind of way. This matrix is spiritual, but we're deceived into thinking that it's all physical. That's what I now have come to that conclusion, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be shown the truth. You know, if it was all just physical and all just intellectual, the matrix wouldn't have to show you the truth. The truth would not ever be even brought to light, because it may not benefit the matrix. But even the matrix and the God entity, all that, they feel obliged to do that. For some reason, you know, the matrix cannot exist unless humans are given a certain amount of free choice. But we're not experts where we've got it. But we do have the right to object to things. It may not always accomplish anything, but we still can do that. But most of the time we don't even do that. And, you know I don't do that a lot of the time either. And, you know, and then things get worse, because if you don't, you know, the old saying, if you don't nip things in the bud, they don't just go away, they get bigger. And then you have a different world. And most people, I think, are not actually that happy with a lot of things in the world. I think even if you're technological, I think some people, and, you know, because there's lots of people, this is what I find a bit strange, but, you know, this is just me. I find it strange that, you know, but hey, it's good if you can have this, if you can accept things that are without bringing you down, because I'm kind of being a bit more extreme, a bit radical almost, by saying, oh, do you have to get rid of everything, start afresh? You know, and that to most people is impossible and sounds impossible. And in some respects, it's as though it would be impossible for most people, because if you are in the matrix, you need the matrix. You need the matrix, and you need the matrix to survive. You know, you're not independent. We're not independent. So, you know, it's the same with myself. Like, you know, like, you're just not independent. So even though you want to go back to a world where you could be more natural and, you know, you need the technology to survive in the city, even if that technology is detrimental to your mental and physical advancement and well-being. You need it. It's become a necessity because we have incorporated it so much. This is the thing, you know. So that's the reality of the world now. You know, and you know, it's just a matter of how much have both. That's probably why I don't think that that's the case, because you haven't got smoking and non-smoking areas, have you? You know, on a train we used to have a smoking compartment and non-smoking compartments. You know, we haven't got that. It's all non-smoking now. Now you're going to say, hey, she's stupid, she's wrong, because we shouldn't have smoking. We shouldn't, that's right. But I'm saying that, hey, that's just an example. It's not a good example. See, should be using an example that promotes my idea, but I'm actually picking a bad one, because most people say, hey, if something is a good law or a good rule that appears to protect people and appears to make them more security, then she's wrong. I don't smoke, okay? And I've never smoked. So I have no reason to stick up for smokers and say we should have a smoking compartment. What I'm talking about is just that each person should be able to make their own fully informed free choice. That's all I'm saying. And that gentleman, when he said, hey, you can stay in a natural world if you want to, away from the technology, and I can have my cyborg artificially intelligent world where I'm connected to this and interacting with artificial stuff. But you see, that's not, but see, really, you know, he was, like I say, I'm not going to be given that choice. And no one is, because it's not where we've got the separate compartments and things. It's not where we're going to allot. I mean, you know, I think that the technology, even if you were able to, and how can you be able to anyway? Most people can't just pull up stakes and go and live wherever they want anyway, even if there were some parts that were natural, you know, they want to set up their own place. You know, we're all not able to do that, and we're all part of the program, as I say. So you follow what I'm saying, I think. You know, perhaps I went a bit extreme. I apologise if I have. But, you know, you have to be extreme when you're making a fantasy argument, because otherwise it doesn't have any merit. If you're making a movie, you've got to be dramatic. You've got to put all the special effects, you know. I'm putting different sides of things. I'm only putting one side because we're in a technological world. So I think that it's good to, like I say, to come up against the matrix, to put up opposition as a debate, because, you know, otherwise we go too far into one direction. We're not in balance even, you know, like even if we could come back a bit, I think then you can slow things down, think about things, and assess whether, also it seems a bit more fair, because, but, you know, that's what I'm saying. You know, all these things that I'm saying, the different types of Barbie dolls, the different species, the different attitudes, the different mindsets, intellect versus feelings and compassion and emotion, you know, what we really are. See, that depends on what you think we really are. See, if you're coming from my fantasy world where I'm saying I think we are a certain thing, then it's quite reasonable for me to say, hey, the technological world is not a benefit to me, or not a benefit to my kind, shall we say. Whereas if you are coming from a different standpoint, like that gentleman who's totally intellectual, now, he says that he is a psychopathic narcissist. He openly says that. So that is his living even. He talks about that. So he's quite honest in saying that he values the intellect over everything. He doesn't think that humans are feeling, emotional beings that can grow and benefit that way. He does not have any love. He says that. He's a married man, but he has no love for his wife. But she accepts that because whatever, you know what I mean? That's their affair. But this is all out in the open, so I'm not making this up or glamorize. You could even watch his videos. It's got many videos. But I'm not going to push you to that or mention people's names because that's not what I'm here for. I'm not even here to promote my own stuff. It's just about trying to balance the unreality of what we think may or may not be, opening up possibilities, and even in the real world you can see that some of these things do happen in a physical way. So if you see some untruths in the real physical world, it's like, do you want that kind of try to keep on track here, I'm way off. Do you want that, what people want for the present, which then is the future? And as others have said to me, we're headed on a train that's on one track, and that track, is not going to be uncoupled at some point and go off in another direction. It should be. Some people think, as I do, that we should be changing those tracks. Instead we're just going on that straight line and without thinking about it even. And a lot of people actually, without awareness of it, shall we say, without awareness. And that's not saying that the rest of us know more. We don't. It's just that a lot of people, as I've said before, too busy, they focus on the real world. So yes, so they are focusing on some issues, but that also depends on, unfortunately, if you believe that you're in the Matrix and in a fantasy world, then most of the real belief things that you believe are not natural phenomenon. So therefore you might be along a certain line, shall we say, doing certain things, but you're just still on that train going on that one track because that's the real world. That's the world you believe is true. It's only when you start to say, look, yes, that's the real world, but there's also other things going on. And it's a matrix either way. Like it is, it's not just things that happen. It's not just things that happen accidentally. And we don't dictate a lot of how these things happen. Our thought does not direct most of the physical things that are now happening in it. Now, that's because the matrix works against us, because that's a negative force. It's a negative force deliberately working there all the time against us, bombarding our senses, because we are in a very sensory reality. That's what I would say. And those senses shouldn't be bombarded with so much technology and so much, like if you're in the city, like where I am, like to go out onto the street with the traffic enormous, the noise, the aeroplanes, the noise of equipment going on everywhere. It's not conducive to clear thinking. It's not conducive to naturally expanding yourself. The matrix takes you over. The matrix takes you totally over. It sidetracks you. It doesn't let you go out into a quiet place where you can say, hey, let me think about now what is my reality. Let me think about what's going on in the world. Let me even think about some things. You almost have to go to the computer, which is the technology, to almost get some peace. And that's not really how it should be. And I know that that's how I used to be even years ago. I used to go out and think I've got to get home to just sit down and relax and watch a TV program. And actually it did help a bit, but that's still the matrix, you see. So that was like the best of two evils, but they're still all anti-live evils, if you follow me. But I don't know, like I say, it is all, it seems to be like where you're looking at the best of two evils, or even a couple of evils a lot of the time. In other words, negative things, because evil is anti-live, it's negative. It's just not that it's not the best for you. It's like you've got two lots of food to eat. One is slightly better than the other, but they're both not going to give you the very best health. And, that's certainly the case. And if you're aware of it, at least you might be able to counter it a little bit. At least you have that choice then, you see. But if you're brought down by the matrix, you'll probably still go for the negative. I know I do sometimes, and that is not good. Matrix has a very strong hold on people. I bought some ice cream the other day, a big tub, and I said, I'm just going to have a scoop. Instead, you have 4 or 5 scoops, and 2 days later, the tub's gone. When you first eat it, it's very delicious, and it was very delicious. And so I say, I'm going to raise my vibration I'm going to get round this, I'm going to raise my vibration by having that ice cream, But the second day it was a bit melted, the fridge wasn't working so good, so it wasn't as delicious, but I still consumed the same amount, whereas I should have said, hey, put it back in the fridge, wait till it freezes up, I'll have it on the third day, because I didn't really enjoy it the second day. The first day I really enjoyed it and ate too much, but the second day I ate just as much but didn't enjoy it. The matrix tempted me. The mind parasite, look, it is a mind parasite because it's a thought, and in a way when you're doing it that it's negative. How their willpower works, that is non-spiritual, I would say, to do that. I would honestly say that's where you, it's only a small thing, so I'm not gonna beat myself up about it too much, because the matrix likes you to beat yourself up and feel guilty too. And heaven only knows we've all got too much of that. So it doesn't accomplish anything. And at any rate, I now think that we are very much in the moment, but we don't realise. And this is something that I got from somewhere else. I don't fully understand it. I forgot. You forgot. Yes, I did forget. I did forget something. This is right. Trying to keep on track. This is it, trying to keep on track. And this is why the videos are not good, because you should keep on the track. If you go from one thing to another, you almost need a genius to be listening, because to fathom it out. Because if I'm not keeping on track, I'm a bit rich to expect you to be doing it. But you must be just getting, if you are still listening, which someone seems to be, you must be getting a little something, or maybe you just like the thing that I'm on that same kind of wavelength, which is something in itself. That's probably enough for some people, because most of us are not even on the same wavelength. Like, most people are not even trying to move away from what they should know is something oh dear. I do hope I'm not upsetting anyone, or oh dear, I do hope I'm not. These are all just look, I haven't got all the answers. Hey, I'm being a people pleaser now because I'm actually thinking of, have I upset someone? But you see, this is the problem. I don't want to upset anyone. And I don't, I said this about the gentleman, like I had a lot of, like I watched that gentleman's movies that was wanting to incorporate the AI technology, which I think that's what he was saying. Now, at that point, I have to admit that I had watched hundreds, of his videos and thought that while he was on certain subjects, I agreed totally with him because he was so knowledgeable. But his ultimate aim was still very much like the Matrix, you see. Even though his information was 100% true. So this is the problem. So, I don't know. So what can I say about that? Like his information on most things. Oh, yes. Oh, well, look, I'm laughing because I still think that it's good if people can just say what they think. Like, okay, I've been a people pleaser in the past, and in the past, as I said, I would be upset if I didn't go along with people or didn't want people to be unhappy that way. But look, at this stage in my life now, and seeing how much so many people taken over almost. Now, look, I haven't went into other elements of this because I haven't went into spiritual aspects of a lot of what I'm saying in a way because I don't fully understand it. I understand, look, I think that what is taking place in this world now, even though it's all very technical and physical, there is a spirituality greatly behind it. Now, like I'm saying, whether I would, even if I was just a human being and didn't think that we had great abilities that have been suppressed or lost, or that we're not trying to utilize because we're unaware of, in my view, what we basically kind of are. This is what I've observed. I see it in my own reality in little bits. So it's not like, I don't even necessarily want it to be true, but I think it is true. Like it doesn't matter to me if we were not spiritual beings. It doesn't matter to me if we couldn't create any reality, if our thinking and our feelings meant nothing. It doesn't matter. In the past, I would have probably said, hey, this world is so tough. The emotions always get you into trouble. Be quite happy being a mind control robot. But the truth is the truth. That's what I now think that my fantasy world, and I keep saying this because I can't sit here and say something is truth if you can't prove it and if a lot of people don't agree with it. I'm not going to do that because I'm not an authority. I'm not someone, I get this from other people that do have more knowledge than me, but even some of them may or may not, because this world is very much governed by, if you can say you're a doctor or you can say you're a scientist, that automatically demands you respect and gives where people will listen to you because they think, I can't know what I'm talking about because I'm an nitwit, and it's true, but I've got this from other people, but also from my own observation. And, I might not be 190 IQ, whatever, like some other people that I will listen to and do have respect for in their information. But their ultimate goal, I do not think, is what I would want for myself. If they want it for their self, that's okay, but anyway, I've gone off track here again, but oh, I'm so sorry, I've gone off track. Oh, dear. But some of the things that I've tried to bring up, and I've tried to put them in a playful way, shall we say, like talking about the dolls and things. It's trying to put what I think is a bit of a reality that even I can't comprehend, and even I look with my eyes and I see, but I still don't believe what I see sometimes, and I still can't comprehend that the world is so much more advanced than the simple world I see around me. Because even the simple world that I'm seeing around me is still much more advanced than what it appears to be. Because it's a matrix, Because it's a matrix, so I don't see, someone talked about the weather and stuff there, but the weather, like I mentioned, that this world is strange in many ways. And if we're in a matrix, in my view, sure, a lot of things look natural. Now, I don't know, but I speculate, but I don't know, because I can't go back in time. As I've said before, I can't get in a time machine and see exactly what the world was like thousands and thousands of years ago. I can't go back and see the beginning of humans, man or whatever. I can't. Should we be able to? Should we be able to see more timelines? The Matrix seems to have a pretty good way of seeing timelines, and but I don't know. But yeah, the Matrix seems to know, and but even if a little bit of what you see in it's okay. I can't read fast enough anyway, and also, the print's not big enough with the thing. I'm not very good. In fact, I've only just got around to reading comments in recent times, like when I first started making the videos without wasting more time as though we've got all day and all night or whatever. I didn't read comments because I didn't think I would get comments. I just thought, I'm just going to say a few things. I'm just trying to say to people that this world is not what they think it is, because I became aware not long ago that what I thought was my reality, or how I even thought things functioned, even around me, was not the truth. Now, I saw that it looks the same. It looks similar to an outsider, but in reality, it's not the same for me at all. It doesn't look the same at all for me now. And also, I think that, I would now question every, what is real. And by what is real, I don't mean that it's not there. I mean that if it's a Barbie doll or a Cindy doll or a Tammy doll, that sort of thing, that people are not. I always used to think people are all the same, and we look similar, but we're not all the same. And That's not a question of saying what is good or bad or what is better or worse. I know I've been saying that humans are downgraded and and that's what my fantasy tells me. But, whatever is, as I've said before, whatever is brought into existence, you don't ask to be brought into existence, even humans. Maybe we do ask to be brought into existence, maybe we don't. I always thought we don't. I always used to say, I never asked to be here. But for all I know, I did. But my memory doesn't tell me that. But then again, some people say that the matrix affects people so much that they don't remember things and that they can have false memories and that they, I like the Blade Runner movie where people think in that movie, there again, that's just an example, where basically people's whole lives, their whole memories are all fabricated and given to the replicants, they call them in the movie, you know, um, you know, how far all that sort of stuff goes, I do not know. Is that, or are these things possibilities? Are they a reality? So, you know, but certainly a lot of us act more a certain way, don't they? I mean, I've known people, even my own family, that they're very they didn't act much different. They act less emotional, at a interactive human level than what the replicants would in that movie, shall we say. So I've got Mr. Whoopi playing outside. I can hear it coming. Haven't heard that for a long time. That is very pleasant to me because it seems real somehow. But maybe it's sent there to distract me from the video because it knows that that little tune will get me in. It's not that awful stuff, but it's quite close now. But you see, so I don't know. That's just, is that good or bad? It's the Matrix, and that is not a van. Does that van just randomly come down the street? Is he an individual human that has living as a Mr. Whippy and drives the van? Or maneuver, shall we say? Now, if you say that to most people, which I wouldn't, but if, I'll do it on these videos because this is fantasy land, you're allowed to be as wacky as you like on a video, and it's entertainment for some people. It's a joke for others, and by and large, mostly for most of us, it's not a waste of time, but it's a lot of energy for a little bit of viewing, shall we say. But that's okay because that, to my way of looking at it now, I'll just say this, every person is like some entertainers and some movies. They have different genres, and some are going to be very mainstream and very popular, and others are going to be little independent things that hardly make any money, and they're only going to be for a very limited audience. And that's not desirable, but at the same time you have to accept the reality. I don't know what the real reality is. Is it possible for a reality to change totally, a little bit? Or is it all, like I've said before, an Archon prophecy, something that is meant to be, and it's only us that are meant to change, not the Matrix? Like, is it just me that's meant to really change and wake up and see how wrong I've been and see the negative spiritual things I've done? Or is it that we are meant to wake up and actually change the matrix? Or is it both? But is it possible also too? Because, you know, like if you've got like me and the gentleman that wants a certain reality anyway, so he's not going to be of the same mind as me. So he's not going to be one of my audience, or one that's going to be, or that I'm going to share a conversation with, shall we say. You know, but I'll listen to him, and I have listened to, you know, I'm sure he's never watched one of my videos, but I've watched all of his videos. And I will still watch them, even though I would have been disappointed, I suppose. Not really surprised. I suppose I shouldn't have been surprised because, like I say, like with that old TV show, if you've got people who are totally intellect only and that is their God is really intellect, especially if they're an open, confessed, open psychopathic narcissist, which is what he actually does say, that he makes his living that way. He's a genius. You know, that I have no at first I thought maybe I shouldn't watch any more of the videos, but then I'm like, but he does speak truthful information, provided I don't believe his or don't go along with his whole thing. In other words, that's the problem in this world, is that, yeah, as someone said on left a thing, truth with lies. And that isn't to say, actually, he's not lying at all, because if you openly say, look, this is what I think. But what I would say is this. And this is probably only what worries me. And this is why I think that, maybe the matrix isn't meant to be changed or can't be changed, because, he's entitled to his view, and his view will probably likely become a reality, much more than my idealized way of wanting to go back to paradise and wanting to develop fully as a human being. Here. You see, I don't even know if that's the full thing. Maybe maybe it's gone too far and we're not meant to develop here. Maybe we're just meant to try to right a few wrongs while we're here, if we can, which we haven't done very well at that. Personally, I mean, that's what I mean. I just look at ourselves personally, and that we have no future here, that we will be wiped out here and taken over. That's a possibility. Especially, and that's probably why I got a bit upset with that, because, oh, you've been so enlightening with the video. But see, even that, sometimes even the truth can make you, like I listened to those videos a year or two ago, and I acted on some of them in a physical way. And it was all true what was said, but I still believe that I acted wrongly, because now when I think of it, even if people are wrong to you and are negative, if in your heart you don't want to turn against them, you still have a belief that it's still better for you for your own self, to stick with something negative, even if you think that you feel that you owe that, that then it is wrong to be directed by even the truth, because it depends on what your purpose is here. I used to say years ago, right, this is getting very personal, and I wouldn't have thought that I would ever be personal on a technological a device. It's almost offensive to me, but at the same time, it's offensive because it shouldn't be that way. And it's like me criticizing something that I'm now using for a benefit. But hey, that's what humans do too. Humans can make a bad matrix and get some good out of a bad matrix. They can do that. They can do things like that. They can use something bad for something good. because that's how some human beings really are. They are remarkable in that respect. That's not me. I got that from someone else, but I have been operating that way a little bit by using it. But that was only desperation. Like, I think there are lots of ways that I could probably, if I was younger, there again, I'm using the age as an excuse too. That's always an excuse. But, I'm not saying that this, because really it's a limited thing for me. But obviously for some people, if they're getting a real lot of people listening and are an influence, that's right, like that gentleman, see, he has an influence, that's what I would say. It's not that I object to his views, but I object to the influence. But hey, that's because he's put up better videos and because he is able to use the truth to help people, and therefore then he becomes valid in his other ideas as well, if you follow me. Like, if I helped you in one area of your life by truth and you acted on that and helped, you'd think I was pretty good and you'd think I was pretty, clever. So you might follow my other ideas too, even though they might not be as beneficial as the things that I had helped you with before. I know I'm confusing you, but what I'm saying is that, like someone might know a lot about, like someone might tell me, hey, if you take a certain substance, your health will be improved. And I try that substance and my health is improved. And I'm like, oh, wow, that person is very intelligent and very informative and very honest. And then they say, hey, perhaps you should go and do, I don't know, I'm trying to think up stuff here offhand. I can't think of something. Perhaps you should also do, perhaps you should also get some radiation or something of some sort to improve your body. And I might say, oh, well, they were right about the other thing, so maybe I'll try that. But as you know, the radiation probably is only good if for some things, and you could actually do a bit more. That's not a very good example. Oh dear, I'm sorry about this. But what I'm trying to say is that it's very easy if someone enlightens you in one way, and this is why I say, even with myself, you don't have to believe or enter into my fantasy with everything I say, and I'm sure some people wouldn't. But certainly you are like, if you're listening, you're probably looking for some sort of truth or something more. There's something wrong, or you don't like something about the world, or about you are looking for something, I would imagine. Either that, or you're just trying to broaden your mind in some way, or either that, or you think it's funny and it's entertaining, but that's okay too. I wouldn't have minded being a comedian before the Matrix exposed. I would have thought, hey, if you make people laugh, that's a good thing. Raise the vibration. Didn't know about vibration, but still thought it was a good thing to make people laugh. I knew that making people laugh gets a lot out of people, makes people feel good. It is a release. And in this world, we need that. I used to notice that even when I was years ago, long before this, that if I laughed at some comedy show, even if it was what I would now say is a program and trying to program me in a way, but if I still laughed really loud at it, maybe I was beating the Matrix in a way, because that vibration might have rose for a little bit. I don't know. I can't say this 100% because, like I say, I'm not advanced enough to know how these things work, or to see, you can't see a vibration. You can't see it. Just like you can't see the technology. Most of the things that are affecting us and that make us feel good or bad, we can't see them. We can feel them though, and sometimes if you will know yourself, you'll say, hey, that made me feel good. People like to feel good. We should all feel good all the time. And so, but anyway, that's, and like I say, if I use particular things, they just come to me. They may or may not make sense to you. If they don't make sense to you, that's okay. It doesn't, a lot of these things, they make sense to me in a way, but I still, yeah, 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 well, yeah. But, you know, they make sense to me in some ways, but like I said, I'm going to repeat that last thing that I said. I don't know why. It makes me feel somehow as though I know what I'm talking about and as though I've come on to some sort of revelation. Look, there is physical things behind. Technology is physical, even though you can't see it, but it's still a physical thing. It's not I don't understand it, but I always think of humans as natural. Obviously, like I say, we're not as natural probably as what we think, but we are not the same as the technology that we use. We're not the same as the spirit that we have, whether that just be that emotion and that feelings that we have, a spark almost, you could say. You know, you feel it. People feel it, whether some people feel it negatively. But if you've got a spark of any sort, even if you hate a lot, you've still got a spark. It's not a very good spark, it's a negative spark, but you're still human, I would say. And the more you've got a positive, you know, that's how we see things, and I think that that's the truth. But you know, you can go along with negative things. You can even be rewarded for being negative. You can do wrong things and get reward sometimes too, I suppose. But it's what the end of it all is. You see, I'm very suspicious and paranoid about the end now. And I'm inclined to believe some of the fearful prophecies almost. I don't know if they're true, and I think that humans do have, and I say humans because I feel myself that the more advanced humans, I think, when I say advanced, I mean those that are more at a high vibration. But even humans at even low vibration, they've still got ability. You were talking about radiation. This is radiating frequency. It's radiating your energy. It's radiating something positive or negative that then mixes, you could say. It then creates what it's thinking. It's creating that negative energy or that positive energy, depending on what you are radiating or sending. It's a frequency, it's a vibration that comes out of only authentic, original human beings, if you'd like to look at it that way. You'd say to me, isn't that what we all are? Well, I'm saying that's what we all should be, but you know, you can go like that gentleman wants to, where you end up going very far from it. And also you can create technology, you can create artificial life too. And we mess an awful lot with genetics and different things, as you know. I mean, I've said before, we cloned Dolly the sheep a long time ago, so I would not dispute that there probably have been some advances in some ways, whether, you know, like I say, there's, you know, it's all, you know, one big confusion, but, you know, we can do a lot. It's whether we do it for a positive reason, you know, or not. But also it still comes down to what your purpose is, where you think that's going. See, if you know, that gentleman that said his thing, he believed also that you know, if you replace the human body with another material, that is no different. In fact, I think that was his exact words in the video. That's no difference. He said, I don't care if I'm made of carbon or silicon or whatever. And I would go along with that in the sense that I would have said that a few years back too. And even now I'd probably say, hey, yeah, mine's deteriorating so much, I would certainly wouldn't mind replacing some of the diseased or defective parts with something more resilient. But I did not realise that if you are coming from the other standpoint that you can do that, and you will survive longer. A bit like the Life for Ruth movie where the fella, I'm rambling off again, where the fella was, wasn't prepared to give her the blood that would extend her human life because it meant that it cut short her immortal life, which means that, because she was like a spiritual being, which means that she didn't really have to die at all. She'd die in the physical body, but then she would live outside of the matrix in another body. But if she took the blood in his reality, then she would die in the matrix and die properly. She would not be able to go on. And of course, the written word in that movie was that, well, like that. Also, there was that element in that movie where she dies. It wasn't her choice. So it wasn't her choice, it was her father's choice. But the written word also says if you take the blood in, you're denied immortal life, eternal life. But also the sins of the father are passed on to the children. So it was his choice if it was his choice to give her the blood, then his sin of giving her the blood would deny her the eternal life, shall we say. That's just, I don't know why I threw that in, but I've gone off track, haven't I? I'm so sorry. You see, but yeah, so if you're coming, that's what I'm saying, whatever the real bottom line truth is what this world is and what we really are, that's what it really comes down to. Whatever that truth is, then yes, you can replace the body with different other substances and you will extend this life, but you'll be stuck here forever, provided you can keep replacing your human body with another substance. In other words, he said, I think his words were, I don't care if my body is a carbon body or a silicon body. Don't ask me, I don't understand these things. But I'm assuming that one is artificial and one is natural. I think the carbon is our body, the other silicon probably. I'm not sure about this because I have heard videos. I wish I knew more because I know that some people say that this carbon silicon thing does have relevance. Look it up yourself because I'm sure that will explain the body a lot more. See, I'm prepared to go with these ideas that I have without 100. I know I've seen the things, but I can't relate it to you because I haven't studied enough. I haven't took it in enough and I haven't memorized it enough. I've took it for a fact at a point and then I'll take another fact and I'll say, that's the picture, that's it, I've got it. This is